Chapter 687. Ghost Realm, Netherworld. Swoosh. A beautiful figure flew past, leaving only a remnant mark on the ground that was enshrouded in death aura. Behind her was a group of ferocious ghost dragon leaders and ghost soldiers who were running like wolves on the ground. An unbearable conch horn sounded. It was the soul-destroying conch, a unique artifact in the ghost domain. The sound of the soul-destroying conch could directly attack the soul of a spirit body, making it impossible for ghosts to hide. After all, Qin was still a spirit body. The sound of the soul-destroying conch was almost unbearable to her. Her mind was in chaos, and a murderous intent kept surging. Damn it! She suddenly stopped and forcibly urged the divine power in her body. She opened her palm gently, and suddenly, a bright dragon crystal soared into the sky. With a bang, it struck down a ghost dragon leader that was closest to her from the sky. However, the ghost soldiers on the ground immediately roared and surrounded her. One by one, they leaped high and pounced on Qin Yin's body. Just as Qin Yin's figure was about to be engulfed in a sea of blood, a golden light suddenly blossomed. It was the illusory figure of a huge golden dragon. It roared incessantly and spun rapidly, crushing all the ghost soldiers into dust. This was the fourth technique of the Dragon Slayer incantation, Golden Dragon Flames. The spiritual form of the heaven-suppressing sword condensed in Qin Yin's hand. She suddenly swept it several times, and the sword aura shook between heaven and earth. A group of ghost soldiers were chopped into pieces, wailing and retreating. They watched from a distance of about 10 meters away from Qin Yin. They bared their teeth and roared, but none of them dared to come forward. Huff! There was not much divine power left in Qin Yin's body. She breathed in the surrounding deathly aura. Although she was a god-tier expert, she was still a ghost at the moment. She needed this deathly aura to replenish the divine power she had lost. As she breathed, the twin peaks under her dress rose and fell slowly. The group of ghost dragon leaders were dumbfounded. But at this moment, a vast power silently descended, causing Qin Yin to be unable to move. It was as if a pair of iron hands were tightly gripping onto her body. At the same time, the surrounding temperature plummeted, and streams of dark energy descended, blotting out the sun. Someone had come. Qin Yin slowly raised her head as she urged her divine power to resist the opponent's domain. She looked at the voice that was floating in the air. It was a general from the ghost region who was wearing a dignified armor. Although he was unarmed, the dark divine power around him was swirling rapidly, and his face was filled with a rough smile. "Who are you?" Qin Yin asked. "Puma." The man laughed and said, "No one has ever asked me who I am in my territory. Qin Yin, you are the first. But since you've asked, there's no harm in me telling you. I'm one of the Ghost Realm's sovereigns, the Ghost Emperor of the 5 directions. I'm in charge of the cycle of life and death in the 3 realms. There are nearly 100 abyssal sovereigns, 1,000,000 chiefs, and tens of millions of ghost soldiers under my command. Do you know who I am now?" Qin Yin was stunned. What do you want?" "What do I want?" The Ghost Emperor of 5 directions' laughter became even louder. It was as if he was going to break through the 9 heavens, and the space around him was even slightly distorted by his laughter. He stared intently at Qin Yin and said, "You trampled through the Naraka Bridge, beat up Mengpe, killed a few of my leaders, and broke the rules of the Ghost Region's underworld. How dare you ask me what I want?" Qin Yin fell silent. "Qin Yin, oh Qin Yin, you are a god with an overgod personality. How could you be reduced to such a miserable state where your soul is scattered and you have to escape into the 6 paths of reincarnation? I, who also have an overgod personality, feel ashamed for you. What on earth caused you to fall to such a state? Mind your own business." After a short rest, Qin Yin took out another dazzling celestial dragon crystal. "This is my domain." The Ghost Emperor of 5 directions roared. "How dare you speak to me like this in my domain? Are you tired of living? Do you think I can't do anything to you if you don't tell me?" As he spoke, the Ghost Emperor of 5 directions suddenly closed his eyes. The black eye on his forehead opened, and it immediately sent chills down everyone's spine. This eye's gaze was like a sharp sword that pierced through the depths of everyone's heart. Qin Yin was no exception. She stood in the air in a daze, unable to move. The eyes of the past was one of the Ghost Emperor's unique skills. It could see through the past of ghosts. However, this unique skill was not very useful. It was just a small trick that he came up with when he was bored. In an instant, as if everything had been seen through, countless thoughts flew through Qin Yin's mind. Scenes of the past appeared once again. In the images, she saw her father, Qin Jin, Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Lei, Feng Jixing, and the others. She also saw the scene of her own death. For a moment, Qin Yin's heart was filled with pain. She couldn't help but curl up and scream in pain. After a full 5 minutes, the Ghost Emperor of 5 Directions closed his third eye. When he opened his eyes, the contempt in his eyes became even more intense. He said, "Qin Yin, is it worth it for you to do this?" Qin Yin endured the pain and looked up at the ruler of the ghost domain. She said, "It's worth it." Good. The Ghost Emperor of 5 Directions suddenly raised his left hand. Suddenly, a towering bloody palm condensed in the air. The Ghost Emperor of 5 Directions laughed and said, "Qin Yin, I'm going to send you to the 18 levels of hell. Are you afraid?" Qin Yin didn't say anything, but her eyes were filled with unwillingness and anger. She wanted to see Lin Muyu again, but it seemed that she didn't have such a chance anymore. "Qin Yin." The Ghost Emperor of 5 Directions roared. The bloody palm descended from the sky and landed on the celestial dragon crystal that Qin Yin had taken out. At the same time, he shouted, "You're the Empress of the Shattered Cauldron Realm, but you were killed by your subjects. Is it worth it?" Bang! The celestial dragon crystal trembled. A golden light wrapped around Qin Yin's body. The Ghost Emperor of 5 Directions' palm made her fall rapidly. She suddenly smashed through the ground and fell into a fiery hell. The first level was the hell of tongue removal. Countless ghosts with their tongues pulled out wailed in the magma. "It's worth it." Qin Yin groaned in pain, but her eyes were still resolute as she gave the answer to the Ghost Emperor of 5 Directions. Her body continued to fall until she hit the ground of the first level of hell with a bang. She smashed a huge pit like a falling meteorite. She continued to fall under the pressure of the Ghost Emperor of 5 Directions' divine power. The Ghost Emperor of 5 Directions' expression became more and more ferocious. He roared, "You care about the people of the world. You don't want to see the Qin Empire in flames of war. But you're criticized for being heartless. Is it worth it?" "It's worth it." Her body smashed through the thick ground and reached the second level of hell, the Hell of Scissors. A group of ghosts with their fingers cut off were howling in pain. They rushed toward Qin Yin with all their might, but the light around Qin Yin turned them into dust. The Ghost Emperor of 5 Directions' power was endless. His face was filled with arrogance and anger. He continued to ask, "You're the Empress, but you're controlled by your treacherous subjects. You can't make your own decisions. Is it worth it?" "It's worth it." Qin Yin's palm was burned red, but she still answered stubbornly. With a muffled sound, the two's divine power collided and blasted the bottom of the second level of hell. They rushed to the third level of hell, the Hell of Iron Trees. The barren ground was filled with iron trees. The trees were full of iron thorns that pierced through the backs of the ghosts. The wailing ghosts hung on the trees like wind chimes. It was a tragic sight. The Ghost Emperor of 5 Directions' expression was ferocious. He continued to ask, "Tang Lon deserves to die 1,000 times for his crimes. You gave him a chance to die for the country to preserve the Tang family's reputation, but he was criticized by others. Is it worth it?" "It's worth it." Qin Yin's body started to burn. The raging flames of death were devouring her legs and arms. With a muffled sound, she fell into the fourth level of hell, the Hell of Mirror Retribution. Countless ghosts were stripped of their bodies, and they wailed under the blazing sun. It was unbearable to look at. They bent their naked bodies and crawled toward Qin Yin. However, they were intimidated by the Ghost Emperor of 5 Directions' might and stopped several dozen meters away. Waves of qi kept surging in the surroundings. The Ghost Emperor of 5 Directions' divine wave surged endlessly in his palm. He continued to ask angrily, "You did everything you could to get rid of Tang Lan and Tang Lu. You unified the world, but in the end, you lost the world. Is it worth it?" "As long as I'm worthy of my father, it's worth it." Qin Yin's ash-covered face was filled with determination. The Ghost Emperor of Five Directions continued to exert force. He brought Qin Yin with him and broke through the fifth level of hell, the hell of steamers. Heat surged in all directions. Countless ghosts were being cooked in the steamers, and they screamed miserably. The Ghost Emperor of Five Directions clenched his teeth and asked, "In order to not let Tang Xiaoxi down, you destroyed your soul and separated from your lover forever. Is it worth it?" "It's worth it." The Ghost Emperor of Five Directions was furious. This was the most stubborn ghost he had ever seen. It was also the most stubborn ghost. If he didn't subdue this ghost today, he wouldn't be able to continue being the Ghost Emperor of Five Directions. Thus, they descended layer by layer. The Ghost Emperor of Five Directions interrogated her again and again. However, the answer he got was exactly the same. Qin Yin wouldn't repent for what she had done. In the blink of an eye, they broke through the 16th level of hell. The next level was the last one, the hell of sawing blades. Countless ghosts were tied to wooden stakes, and the evil ghosts used blades and saws to cut open their bodies. Their screams lingered in the air. The surroundings were scorching hot. Qin Yin felt like her body was about to evaporate. The Ghost Emperor of Five Directions roared angrily and asked the 18th question, "If I give you a chance to return to the Shattered Cauldron realm, are you willing to be the Empress again and rule over the world?" Qin Yin's body trembled. Tears welled up in her eyes. "I'm not willing." "Why?" The Ghost Emperor of Five Directions was taken aback. This was the first time Qin Yin had given him a negative answer. Qin Yin's body and soul could no longer withstand so many collisions. Her body slowly dissipated into starlight. Before she died, she murmured, "I love him. I don't want to rule over the world. I just want to stand shoulder to shoulder with him." The Ghost Emperors of Five Directions, boom! Amidst the deafening sound, the 18th level of hell was broken through, but Qin Yin's body also dissipated, turning into countless stars that filled the pitch-black space. The Ghost Emperor of Five Directions stood there in a daze. He had killed Qin Yin with his own hands, but he didn't feel any sense of accomplishment at all. An abyssal prefect followed behind him and asked respectfully, "Your Majesty, should we use the soul-destroying conch to completely destroy Qin Yin's soul?" The Ghost Emperor of Five Directions gently opened his palm. Rays of blue light extended out like ribbons and absorbed the spirit light that Qin Yin had turned into. He said calmly, "I asked the 18 questions, and Qin Yin answered them all without any hesitation. She has already been tested by the Purgatory Realm and the Ghost Realm. Forget it. We should not offend the future Master God of Light if we can. After we reconstruct Qin Yin's spirit body, send her into the well of reincarnation." "Yes, Your Majesty." However, at this moment, an extremely sinister voice came from behind him. "Yo, since when did Your Majesty Ghost Emperor of Five Directions become so benevolent? You, Ghost Emperor of East Unicorn?" Chapter 688. A spiritual thought slowly condensed into Qin Yin's figure in the sky behind the Ghost Emperors of the Five Directions. She let out a faint sigh and opened her eyes to see a new Ghost Emperor arriving. East Unicorn Ghost Emperor stood majestically in midair, his sleeves fluttering in the wind. His aura was contained, but he didn't release it. There was an awe-inspiring arrogance between his brows. Behind him, there were more than 20 prefects dressed in golden armor, as well as the black mass of ghost dragon leaders in the sky, as well as countless ghost soldiers, soul hunters, impermanents, and other ghost creatures. Dong Lin. The Ghost Emperor of the Five Directions narrowed his eyes and said, "This Qin Yin has already passed my test and passed the 18 purgatories. I am the ruler of the three realms and the guardian of the Well of Reincarnation. Are you going to meddle in the affairs of the Well of Reincarnation?" "You've misunderstood." Dong Lin put on a fake smile and said, "Although this Qin Yin has passed your test, she has committed too many evil deeds after entering the ghost domain. I think you also know that she killed and seriously injured Granny Meng on the surface, killed many ghost dragon leaders, and killed countless soul hunters. Granny Meng is one of my people. How can she hurt her just because she wants to? Then what do you want? The Ghost Emperor's voice turned cold. Ghost Emperor Dong Lin laughed. The Ghost Realm has its own rules. Even if Qin Yin has an overgod personality, she must follow the rules of the Ghost Realm. Moreover, she only has a fallen overgod personality. Once this divinity completely perishes in the Ghost Realm, the laws of heaven and earth will choose a new ruler, and Qin Yin will be worthless. Ghost Emperor Dong Lin, we've never interfered with each other. You control your life and I control my death, but life and death are incompatible. Qin Yin has committed great crimes in the Ghost Realm, so I must take her to the Nether Spring. That's where she should go. The Nether Spring? The Ghost Emperor shuddered. He knew exactly what kind of place the Nether Spring was. It was the end of all life. Those who entered the Nether Spring had chosen death, and they would die completely. They would no longer exist in the world. You really want to send Qin Yin to the Nether Spring? The Ghost Emperor narrowed his eyes. That's right. The East Unicorn Ghost Monarch stretched his arm, and streams of deathly aura surged around him. He said with a smile, "She has run amok in the ghost domain, and she has already committed a huge crime. How can we let her off? Wu Fang, I advise you not to stick your neck out. Otherwise, if you violate the rules, I'm afraid you and I won't be able to bear the consequences when the heavenly wrath descends." The 5 Ghost Emperors remained silent. After a few seconds, Dong Lin seemed to be a little impatient. The bloody cracks on his face kept opening and closing, spraying out bloody smoke. He said, "How about it? Have you thought it through? Hand over Qin Yin to me, and everything will be fine. Otherwise, this woman will bring you endless trouble." The Ghost Emperor of the 5 Directions' face turned cold. "If you want to send her to the Nether Spring, then I'll leave it to you, but are you really going to send her to the Nether Spring? Otherwise? That's fine too." The 5 Ghost Emperors turned to look at Qin Yin's newly formed body. "Qin Yin, do you know what kind of place the Nether Spring is?" Qin Yin's heart was filled with despair. She had already accepted the teasing of fate. No matter how hard she tried, she would never be able to see the person she loved for the last time. Since you understand, then go. You won't feel any pain after entering the Nether Spring. The Ghost Emperor of the 5 Directions gave her a deep look. "You've struggled so hard in the human realm, but who has ever felt sorry for you? Rather than struggling to live like this, why not choose death? Perhaps that is the true fate." "I understand. Thank you, Ghost Emperor." Qin Yin nodded and bowed to the Ghost Emperor of the human realm. The Ghost Emperor of the 5 Directions turned away with a complicated expression. "Fine, fine. Dong Lin, take her there." "Thank you, Wu Fang Ha." The East Unicorn Ghost Emperor laughed loudly. With a light wave of his hand, an azure lantern appeared in his sleeve. The soul capture cage was activated, and Qin Yin's spirit body let out a miserable groan. In the blink of an eye, she turned into white light and was sucked into the soul capture cage. No matter how strong she was, she couldn't resist the power of death. "Then we'll take our leave." Ghost Emperor Dong Lin handed the soul restraint cage to his subordinate and cupped his fists. "Wu Fang, we'll meet again if fate allows. Of course, you're welcome to visit me at the Nether Spring. We can drink to our heart's content." Wu Fang sneered. "Let's go back to the land of death." Dong Lin laughed heartily. After giving the order, the army of 10 million left the sky above the well of reincarnation. "Your Majesty!" An official lord cupped his fists and said, "Are we just going to let Ghost Emperor Dong Lin snatch our people in our territory? That Qin, her soul is an overgod soul." The Ghost Emperor of the 5 Directions clenched his fists and a powerful aura surged out from his body. He widened his blood-red eyes and said angrily, "Dong Lin is going too far just because he's allied with Qishui Ghost Emperor. Then what should we do?" The official lord asked. "Where's Ghost Hand?" "Ghost Hand? That brat is probably cultivating right now. Inform Ghost Hand to set up an ambush along the path to the soul refining pool. Once the Ghost Emperor of the 5 Directions arrives, He'll steal Qin Yin's soul restraint cage. Remember, it has to be done quietly. I don't want to completely fall out with Dong Lin. If that happens, I'm afraid a storm of blood will be stirred up in the ghost domain. Yes, I understand. But Ghost Emperor Dong Lin said that he's going to send Qin Yin to the Nether Spring. Isn't this the opposite of what he wants? If Ghost Hand goes to the soul refining pool, how can he steal Qin Yin's spirit body? Ha! The Ghost Emperor of the Five Directions widened his blood-red eyes and said, "Just listen to me. I know what kind of person Dong Lin is. We've known each other for 200,000 years. That greedy bastard is going to let go of the Overgod's soul in Qin Yin's spirit body? He'll definitely bring Qin Yin to the soul refining pool and let the water in the pool devour Qin Yin's spirit body. He'll refine her Overgod's soul and make it his own." Then, the Ghost Emperor of the Five Directions narrowed his eyes. Dark energy revolved around his fist and he said, "I'm relying on my darkness Overgod's soul to establish a foothold in the ghost domain. Once Dong Lin obtains the light Overgod's soul, I'm afraid he'll make things difficult for me before daybreak." "I understand. I'll do it right away." The Ghost Emperor's words scared His Excellency so much that he broke out in a cold sweat. He didn't expect that Qin Yin's arrival would cause such a great disturbance. If he didn't handle it well, a war would probably break out in the ghost realm. On the surface of the Yellow Springs path, a figure sped past. It was Lin Muyu. The divine energy in his body had recovered to its peak. The Supreme Godhead was constantly generating new divine energy, giving him endless power to fight. However, there were no enemies in front of him. Moreover, he couldn't find Qin Yin, which made Lin Muyu very upset. "Brat, don't go. I Dong Chao am coming," a leader of the ghost dragons shouted from behind. Lin Muyu quickly stopped flying. Waves of air revolved around his body. He saw Dong Chao coming with dozens of leaders of the ghost dragons and a group of ghost soldiers on the ground. However, there were no ghost emperors this time, which surprised Lin Muyu a lot. Well, since he couldn't find Qin Yin, he would get rid of these flies first. Swoosh! Dong Chao turned into a bolt of lightning and flew across the sky. Almost before he could shout, Dong Chao was sent flying by Lin Muyu's heavy punch and smashed a mountain in the distance. The ghost dragon, on the other hand, stayed in the air while roaring. It didn't know that its master had been sent flying by a punch. Lin Muyu gently opened her palm and took out a spirit bead of law. It was a spirit bead of the law of light. The fist-sized spirit bead contained endless power of law. Rays of golden light shot out in all directions and pierced through the bodies of the undead creatures like long swords. Immediately, the group of ghost dragon leaders and ghost soldiers howled miserably and retreated. No one dared to take another step forward. Lin Muyu mounted Dong Chao's mount and grabbed the reins. Instantly, the ghost dragon was scared out of its wits. In the past, it was always ridden by ghosts. Now that it was replaced by a god, it was particularly uncomfortable. "Let's go. What are you waiting for?" Lin Muyu glared at it. The ghost dragon also turned its head and looked at Lin Muyu. With a roar, it flapped its wings and flew away. But where should she go? Lin Muyu couldn't sense Qin Yin's breath with her spiritual pulse technique. It must be because they were too far away, or the death qi in the ghost realm affected Qin Yin's breath so that she couldn't sense it. Thinking of this, Lin Muyu suddenly had an idea. Yes, she didn't know the rules of the ghost realm, but some people did, such as the old woman who gave people soup at the Bridge of Helplessness. "Let's go and find Meng Pa." Lin Muyu clamped the ghost dragon's neck with her legs. Suddenly, the ghost dragon groaned and flew out. The wind was howling. Countless ghosts were waiting to drink soup at the Bridge of Helplessness. Meng Pa stood there with the help of her walking stick. She squinted her old eyes and said, "The wind is so strong tonight. Something big is going to happen. Alas, it's getting more and more chaotic these days. A few days ago, that damn girl destroyed my bridge. Today, I have a feeling that something will happen again." As soon as she finished speaking, the sound of metal and stone cutting through the air came from the sky. Clang! A dazzling long sword pierced into the stone table in front of Meng Pa, all the way to the hilt. In the next moment, A handsome young man leaped down from a ghost dragon in the air and landed on the table with a thud. He looked down at Meng Po and said, "Old woman, do you know where Qin Yin is?" "Who are you? How dare you call me old woman?" Meng Po raised her head with a violent expression. However, what she saw was a celestial dragon crystal spinning rapidly in Lin Muyu's palm. Meng Po felt a chill in her heart. This brat's power actually came from the same source as that little girl's. Moreover, his power was more than a level higher than hers. "Why are you looking for Qin Yin?" Meng Po trembled with fear. "That's none of your business. I'm only asking, where is Qin Yin?" Meng Po looked around and saw that the ghost generals and ghost soldiers who usually guarded the Bridge of Helplessness with her weren't saying a single word. Each of them were like frightened quails as they trembled and shrank in place. Meng Po immediately cursed them 10,000 times in her heart. What a bunch of useless chickens. Chapter 689. She's already been sent to the 18 levels of purgatory. Meng Po said lightly. "What?" Lin Muyu shuddered. "How is that possible? She didn't cross the Bridge of Helplessness. How did she get sent directly to purgatory?" "The 5 ghost emperors personally sent her there. I don't know anything else." Meng Po's face was sad. "Young hero, please leave. I'm just a soup seller. How do I get to the 18 levels of purgatory?" Lin Muyu asked. Meng Po stomped her feet. "Purgatory is below, but if you want to go down, you have to dig through the thick plain wall. Otherwise, young hero, you can also drink this bowl of soup of mine. After drinking it, you'll forget everything and lose all your cultivation. Then you can enter the gates of hell and reincarnate. How about it, young hero? Do you want a bowl? You can keep it for yourself." Lin Muyu glanced at her. After pulling out the stellar sword, she suddenly moved and flew out. She leaped up violently, raised her sword, and slashed down heavily. A strong destructive light appeared on the blade, and everyone could see a small black ball appear around the young man. It was the spirit pearl of the law of darkness. Bang! The extremely penetrating attack blasted the surface of the ground, going about 10 meters underground. Lin Muyu flipped and jumped in, holding the sword with both hands. Her body spun rapidly, and streaks of sword chi from the law of wind flew out, constantly cutting and grinding the soil and minerals underground. After digging for nearly 100 meters, the sword actually bounced back with a dang. It was the legendary plain wall. As expected, he took a deep breath, and with a mental power, his eyes were plated with a layer of golden light. The black space wall in front of him turned into a grid of 4-dimensional space cubes. Even Lin Muyu could easily see through its mysteries. Behind this space wall was another world. It was the legendary purgatory. Whoosh! Raising her aura, her long sword flew out, and she used the fire kinesis sword to activate the spiral break and directly smashed into the plane's wall. Under the penetration of the divine power, the wall continuously turned into energy fragments that scattered everywhere. Lin Muyu's body also jumped in, her hands behind her back, and she passed through the plane's wall like a fairy. On the surface, Meng Po and the others were dumbfounded. A rumbling sound came from beneath their feet. It was as if there were 1,000,000 excavators working under the ground of the underworld. It was not an ordinary noise. Moreover, this brat had started digging less than 100 meters away from the Bridge of Helplessness. How arrogant was he? It had been a long time since the ghost domain had been so lively. That kid really has guts? An abyssal prefect couldn't help but say in awe. Is he going to pass through the 18 levels of purgatory as a living person and meet the 3 ghost emperors underground? You're courting death. The old ghost soldier nodded and said, "Yes, this kid has guts." Meng Po placed her hands on her hips and shouted angrily, "What the hell are you sighing about? Hurry up and get to work. Order people to repair the ground. So many ghosts have escaped. Ghost generals and ghost soldiers, go and catch them. If even one escapes, I'll hold you responsible." "Yes, Senior Meng." "Senior Meng, how many times have I told you to call me your majesty?" The more Meng Po spoke, the angrier she became. She placed her hands on her hips and said seductively, "Back when I was still young, before you bunch of bastards were even born, I was the flower of the ghost domain. Just ask around, which of the 3 ghost emperors didn't want to marry me? If it weren't for my arrogance, I'm afraid the 3 ghost emperors would have slept with me a long time ago. Just as she was speaking, a dark red silhouette suddenly flitted past in the distance like an arrow. With a pa sound, the other party borrowed the force and left a footprint on Meng Po's beautiful face. After borrowing the force, Meng Po was already flying in the sky. She looked at the large hole in the distance in shock and said, "Excuse me, did you see a young man carrying a sword pass by here?" Meng Po's eyes widened as she stared at the little beauty in the air who was holding a fiery red whip. This girl was ridiculously beautiful. Her beautiful face was definitely a perfect 10, and her figure was exquisite. She was curvy in all the right places, and her breasts were curvy in all the right places. She was definitely a 10. For a moment, Meng Po was filled with sorrow. There's no one more beautiful than me in this world. Damned girl, who are you? Meng Po roared angrily, spittle flying everywhere. The one in the air was naturally Tang Xiaoxi. She held the nation-suppressing whip and smiled innocently. She said, "I'm from the human world, and I'm here to find my 2 good friends." "Excuse me, did you see a man carrying a sword?" "Don't say a word," Meng Po roared. However, the ghost soldiers and ghost generals behind her had long been mesmerized by Tang Xiaoxi's sexy short skirt outfit. They all pointed at the huge pit and said, "Goddess, it's there. That brat just broke through the plane's wall and went to purgatory. If you want to find him..." No, goddess, you can't go find him. This place is also pretty good. Goddess, don't go." As they spoke, Tang Xiaoxi had already turned into a stream of light and entered the huge pit. You bunch of trash." Meng Po was extremely angry. She waved her hands and slapped the faces of the group of people. She scolded, "You guys are so infatuated with a shameless little bitch who wears such revealing clothes. You bunch of trash, you bunch of impure people, you bunch of people who haven't broken away from vulgar interests." I'm so angry." The surging flames continuously attacked the tide-like spatial energy in the plane's wall. When the flames turned into a sharp claw and officially tore the plane's wall apart, a beautiful figure appeared in the first level of purgatory. It was Tang Xiaoxi. In front of her was a sea of flames. Tang Xiaoxi's 9-tailed firefox automatically created a protective wall to protect its master. "Where is she?" Tang Xiaoxi's red lips moved. She was confused. Those people clearly said that Lin Muyu entered from here. Why couldn't they find her? Where did she go? In the distance, a group of ghosts were wailing. Their tongues had been pulled out because they were a bunch of idiots who liked to gossip. Not only did they have their tongues pulled out, but their bodies were also tied to trees. They cried out pitifully, but no one cared about them. People would always make mistakes in their lives. After entering the 18 levels of purgatory, it was time to pay for them one by one. "That woman, who are you?" On the fiery red ground, a ghost general holding a battle axe roared angrily, "Why did you enter the 18 levels of purgatory without permission?" Of course, Tang Xiaoxi knew that this person was a general of the ghost realm. However, she wasn't afraid. She stepped on the fire cloud and walked over. She looked down at him and said, "Lord of the ghost realm, have you seen Qin Yin and Lin Muyu?" "Qin Yin?" The ghost general squinted his eyes. "I've heard of this name, but I don't know about Lin Muyu." "Qin Yin has already been sent to the Nether Spring." "Why, are you in a hurry to see her for the last time?" "Nether Spring? What kind of place is the Nether Spring?" Tang Xiaoxi was confused. "The place where life ends. Those who enter the Nether Spring will never come back. Their lives will turn into nothingness and merge with the qi of the universe, turning into dust." "What?" Tang Xiaoxi was shocked. She asked again, "Just now. Just now, Mu passed through this plane's wall. Why didn't I see him when I came here?" "That's simple." The ghost general sneered and said, "Breaking through the plane's wall means a space travel. If you didn't come in hand, there would inevitably be some distance between each other. A difference of a thought can be 100 miles. If it's short, it's 7 or 8 miles, and if it's long, it's 10,000 miles. This tongue-pulling hell is very vast. It's 1,200,000 miles from east to west, and 900,000 miles from north to south. Do you want to go find him? 1,200,000 miles. Tang Xiaoxi was shocked. Looks like I can't find him. Then where is the Nether Spring? Nether Spring? The ghost general couldn't help but smile. The battle axe in his hand ignited with strands of flames. He said, "Little girl, this is the 18 levels of purgatory. It's a place where ghosts live. Laozi is not a guide. You ask me so many questions. Can you eat my axe?" Nope. Tang Xiaoxi raised the nation-suppressing whip in her hand. Without a sound, she whipped the air. The tension of the flames was contained in the sound of the whip. When the ghost general looked down, he saw that the head of the battle axe had already been melted. The other party's strength could be imagined. How much stronger was she than him? "Heroine, please spare my life. I'm just a passerby." The ghost general knelt down decisively and knocked his forehead on the ground. "I won't kill you. I just want to ask you, where does the Nether Spring go?" "Heroine, you've asked the right person. I'm the best guide in this tongue-pulling hell. Listen carefully. Walk forward for about 10 miles from here. There's a cave in the shape of a beast's mouth. Inside is the plains crack. We send ghosts to the second level of hell from such a place." "Thank you." "You're welcome. This is what I should do." The ghost general stood up and looked at Tang Xiaoxi flying in the air. He actually had a reluctant feeling. Boom! The sword light splattered on the ground of the tongue-pulling hell. The divine power in Lin Muyu's body revolved. The 5 mountains descend from the sky caused the entire plain to tremble. He knew that this was the second level, so he was too lazy to look for the entrance. He just kept blasting through it. In the distance, 2 ghosts who were tied to a tree with their tongues pulled out stared dumbfoundedly. They stuttered as they chatted, "Iwu-wu-ya? What is that brat doing?" "Woo-wu-ya-woo. I don't know. He's probably too strong and has nowhere to use it." "Iya-woo-woo-woo-ya. Look at how anxious he is. Could his girlfriend have been stolen by the ghost emperor?" "Woo-woo-ya-yo. I'm guessing that's about right." "Ya-ya-woo-woo-ya. Serves him right." On the side, the ghost generals who were in charge of guarding the place looked at each other. They didn't move. The power of that brat sword was probably something that even a prefect couldn't resist. With their cultivation, it was better to forget about it. Going over to enforce the law would just be courting death. But at this moment, a group of people flew over from the distance. As expected, a prefect-level powerhouse had arrived. Chapter 690. "Brat, what are you trying to do?" With a wave of his hand, the Lord took out a long spear with a dazzling light. He said in a very cold voice, "Stop. Do you want to destroy the entire tongue-pulling hell? Go away." Lin Muyu's voice became even colder. "Don't disturb me if you don't want to die." "I heard that you are looking for Qin-yin?" His Excellency sneered. "So what if I am? That little girl Qin-yin has already been sent to the Nether Spring by our East Unicorn Ghost Emperor. Her life has already come to an end, and there's no need for her to reincarnate anymore. Well, could it be that you want to challenge His Majesty?" "What did you say?" Lin Muyu suddenly stopped her attack on the ground. Her heart was in a mess. She asked, "Xiao Yin has been sent to the Nether Spring?" "That's right. It happened 2 hours ago. Her soul should have rotted away in the Nether Spring by now." His Excellency looked at Lin Muyu's sorrowful expression and felt a twisted pleasure in his heart. He laughed and said, "Is she your woman? Ha, interesting, interesting. But today, not only is your woman gone, even your life, I will take it. A mere hierarch dares to act like a tyrant in the ghost domain. I think you are tired of living. Come, I will let you see the power of my wind form, His Excellency." The spearhead trembled slightly. Suddenly, a milky white flower of the law of wind bloomed. Divine power surged. This was also a hierarch with the cultivation of a hierarch. Lin Muyu calmed her mind. Although this wind form, His Excellency, said that Qin-yin had been sent to the Nether Spring, it might not be true. She had to calm down and get through this hurdle first. Behind His Excellency Wind form, a group of ghost dragon leaders and ghost soldiers shouted, "All hail His Excellency, His Excellency! Slaughter this stinking brat! How dare he trespass into the ghost domain? He's courting death!" Lin Muyu was well aware that the reason why the ghost domain's prefects were so arrogant was undoubtedly because the death chi in the ghost domain would restrain the strength of a living person. Even a god's strength would be greatly reduced in the ghost domain. It would already be considered pretty good if an ordinary god could exert 50% of their strength in the ghost domain. Lin Muyu's supreme godhead was more than a grade higher, so she could exert 80% of her strength. It was more than enough to kill this wind prefect. The wind form His Excellency rushed forward and opened up a huge domain field force net around him. It was like a rope that kept binding Lin Muyu's body. At the same time, the long spear in his hand trembled and went straight for Lin Muyu's heart. So ruthless! Did he want to kill her in one strike? In your dreams! Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Her domain aura whizzed out, directly blowing away the domain pressure created by the wind form prefect. Her stellar sword swept past her chest at lightning speed. Dang! Sparks flew, and her opponent's long spear was knocked away. At the same time, her left palm condensed into a blade, and she closed in on Lin Muyu's body. A fierce blow containing raging flames slashed at Lin Muyu's shoulder. Bang! Flames flew everywhere and wind form His Excellency suffered a great loss. Intense pain came from his shoulder. Lin Muyu's first move was the 20-layered waves impact. It was extremely difficult for him to endure. However, wind form His Excellency was a seasoned fighter. He turned around and stabbed the tip of his spear towards Lin Muyu's lower abdomen. The dragon blood battle shield condensed in an instant and forcefully blocked wind form His Excellency's attack. However, just as the power dissipated, a faint wind surged from the surroundings and coiled around Lin Muyu's body like a long snake. It was wind form His Excellency's secret technique. Have a taste of the snake's kiss. Wind form His Excellency laughed loudly. Lin Muyu was slightly startled. This wind serpent was made up of extremely pure wind energy. Normal power would not be able to shake it off. Thinking of this, Lin Muyu actually gave up on her original defense. She swung her sword backwards and her body shone with a bright golden light. A huge golden wheel appeared from the ground. It was the Sovereign's divine wheel. However, this divine wheel was much smaller than the first time she used it. However, its power did not decrease. After continuous cultivation, Lin Muyu became more and more familiar with this type of energy. Naturally, her control over it also became more and more skillful. The divine will swept out and easily tore apart the wind serpent. As Lin Muyu's palm moved, the divine will flew out and directly attacked wind form His Excellency. How is this possible? Wind form His Excellency was shocked. How could a god of the mortal realm use a divine wheel? That was an ability exclusive to god emperors. Bang! The divine will swept past, and His Excellency Wind spat out a mouthful of blood. He was already seriously injured. As he retreated, he felt a chill behind him. It was a sweep of Lin Muyu's sword. She had directly sliced through the armor on His Excellency Wind's back, and a terrible sword wound appeared on his back. His injuries had worsened, and His Excellency Wind was almost unable to continue fighting. Where the hell is Xiao Yin? Lin Muyu opened her left hand and held the wind form sovereign's shoulder armor in the air as she calmly asked, "Heh, this is the ghost realm, not your mortal world. If you dare to mess around here, you'll die. Although that Qin Yin has the overgod godhead, she's just a ghost. She'll die if she enters the nether spring, but if she doesn't, she'll become the exclusive property of us prefects. We'll play with her body and let her experience the ultimate pleasure of the ghost realm." Cough cough, he was courting death. If he continued to provoke the frenzied Lin Muyu with his words, what else could he be other than courting death? Just as His Excellency Wind form was coughing and speaking, a sharp sword had already pierced through his heart. As a god, his ability to protect himself was very strong. His chest surged with a series of 17 waves to protect himself against Lin Muyu, but how could he withstand it? Lin Muyu had the sovereign godhead, while His Excellency Godhead was just a mortal. Any last words? Lin Muyu asked calmly. F*CKU, His Excellency Wind Form spat out a mouthful of blood. Just as he was about to curse again, Lin Muyu's power exploded. Under the attack of the Sovereign Godhead, His Excellency Godhead instantly turned into a cloud of blood mist. A golden law of the wind mortal Godhead appeared in the air for a moment, and Lin Muyu grabbed it and threw it into her Qianquan bag. His Excellency Godhead. The group of ghost dragon leaders and ghost soldiers were dumbfounded, but none of them dared to step forward. None of them dared to provoke a god who could easily kill an hierarch Godhead. Lin Muyu looked at the ghosts indifferently, raised his sword and rushed towards the pit on the ground again. He gathered his divine power and slashed down fiercely. Instantly, the plain wall shook continuously, and after a few consecutive slashes, a large hole was blasted open in the plain wall by Lin Muyu. He rushed in without looking back, without any hesitation. The group of ghost dragon leaders were dumbfounded. What should we do? What kind of god is this kid? He actually killed His Excellency Windform. His Excellency Windform is one of the strongest ghost lords under Ghost Emperor Dong Lin. What else can we do? Immediately report to His Majesty Ghost Emperor. Just say that this kid has entered the 18 levels of hell and has cruelly killed His Excellency Windform. Alright, that's the only way. The second level of the 18 levels of purgatory, Hell of Scissors. Countless sinners who had their fingers cut off were constantly wailing. At the same time, there seemed to be more and more hunters in the sky of Hell of Scissors. Countless ghost dragon leaders and some evil spirits with wings on their backs were constantly flying past. Boom! Suddenly, there was a violent sound of thunder in the sky. Accompanied by lightning and flames, the sky seemed to be torn open. A beautiful girl holding a long whip stepped through the air and looked at the densely packed crowd on the ground in surprise. This Hell of Scissors seemed to be much smaller than the first level. At a glance, one could almost see the end of it. Someone has trespassed into hell. Quick, catch her, it's a woman. There was a clamor in the air, and countless ghost dragon leaders rushed over in a dense mass. Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but secretly complain. The ghost dragon leaders weren't that scary. The scary thing was their numbers. There were thousands of them. It was easy to kill one ghost dragon leader, but what about after killing 10 or 100? Would they still have the strength to deal with the next danger? Use the spear to throw. The ghost dragon leaders roared one after another. Everyone pulled out a long spear from the pouch on the dragon's back. This was a special kind of spear. There was even a feather at the end of the spear. The tip of the spear was extremely sharp and suffused with a cold light. Tang Xiaoxi hurriedly flew up to dodge. Her beautiful figure was like a butterfly dancing among the flowers, dodging all the spears. However, dense ghost soldiers appeared on the ground, and they were jumping like frogs. Tang Xiaoxi was careless, and one of the ghost soldiers stretched out a 100-meter-long tongue and wrapped around Tang Xiaoxi's snow-white leg, making it wet. Ugh, disgusting. Tang Xiaoxi hated this kind of disgusting thing to the bone. With a flip of her palm, the fire laws surged, and a rain of fire actually fell from the sky, igniting the desolate grassland on the ground. Tang Xiaoxi's principle was actually very simple. If it was disgusting, then just clean it up. Furthermore, there was no good person in this scissors hell other than herself. As she set the fire, she looked into the distance. Very quickly, Tang Xiaoxi found a cave shaped like the mouth of a wild beast. Inside, strands of space domain aura leaked out. It was the entrance. However, Tang Xiaoxi did not fly straight over. Instead, she brought a group of ghost dragon leaders and circled around the entire second level of hell. Only after the entire scissors hell had turned into a sea of fire did she leave in satisfaction. Hee. A golden light flashed across Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes. She was a 9-tailed demon fox, a demon to begin with. After doing something bad, she actually felt very happy, and the demonic energy in her body also became joyful. On the ground, countless ghost soldiers looked at Tang Xiaoxi and cursed. You monster! Bad thing, you're simply too bad. Which, if you have the guts, take off your skirt and fight me for 500 rounds. However, Tang Xiaoxi ignored them and flew into the entrance of hell, heading to the third level. Bam! Another thunderclap sounded in the sky, and the shadow of a vast sky sword flashed across the sky, as if the sky had been split open by a sword. In the next moment, Lin Muyu, who was wrapped in flames, stepped into this domain. However, when she saw that it was also a sea of fire below, she could not help but frown. What's going on? It's so lively. Chapter 691. Beneath the 18 levels of purgatory, there was a giant pool of blood between the heavens and the earth. This was the legendary soul refining pool. This soul refining pool was originally a blood spring in the underworld. Later generations discovered that the soul refining pool could refine the remaining life force of ghosts, so this blood pool was named the soul refining pool. Since ancient times, it was unknown how many martial artists had their souls scattered in the soul refining pool, becoming a part of someone else's power. Dozens of miles south of the soul refining pool, ghost monarch Dong Lin flew across on a blood-red cloud. Behind him, a group of prefects and ghost dragon leaders clustered around the ruler of the ghost realm. Nether flames flickered in the sky. The wind carried mournful howls and death chi. Just like every year for hundreds of thousands of years, under the 18 levels of purgatory, there was only death, no rebirth. Suddenly, thunder rumbled in the sky. Dark clouds rolled in from afar. It seemed that a storm was coming. What's going on? Ghost monarch Dong Lin looked to the north and frowned. It hasn't rained in the ghost realm for many years. Is it going to rain? An prefect said, Your Majesty, there must be something unusual in the sky. In my opinion, why don't we just throw Qin Yin's soul into the nether spring? Woman's opinion. Ghost monarch Dong Lin looked at him coldly and said, Qin Yin has the overgod's personality. Although it's only a spiritual body, the soul of the light overgod's personality is in this spiritual body. If I can refine it, I can carry the overgod's personality. Do you know what this means? The prefect shivered. I don't know. This means that the ghost realm only has one emperor. Ghost monarch Dong Lin looked at the faint thunder in the sky. The storm was coming. He couldn't help but frown, land, go to the soul refining pool from the ground. This damn weather. The prefect nodded and the soul restraint cage in his hand flickered. The heavy rain came as expected, splashing on the ghost soldiers. East Unicorn Ghost the Arch looked up at the sky, and an invisible air shield appeared around him, blocking the storm, but his heart was full of helplessness. When he broke through to the 20th level of heavenly abode in the ghost domain, he didn't have the opportunity to comprehend the ability to call the wind and summon the rain. Otherwise, why would he be afraid of this insignificant storm? The ghost soldiers followed the rules and walked on the dark mountain path. The heavy rain poured down, and the weather changed, causing the earth to shake. In the rumbling sound, a section of the mountain path in front of them suddenly collapsed, and hundreds of ghost soldiers fell into the endless abyss, howling miserably. The bottom of this mountain range was a land of death, and no one knew how many years it had been since anyone had entered it. Once they fell in, they would most likely die. Be careful, Your Majesty. A huge rock rolled down from the mountain, and the prefect who was holding the soul restraint cage in his hand hurriedly blocked in front of him. Streams of dark divine power gathered on his legs, and with a flying kick he sent out a biting cold force, and actually smashed the huge rock into powder. The strength of the people around East Unicorn Ghost the Arch could be seen from this. However, when this prefect was kicking the huge rock, he did not notice a dark shadow flashing past, and the flickering light in the soul-trapping cage also disappeared. The torrential rain was heavy, and everything beyond half a meter could no longer be seen clearly. Thus, no one noticed any of this. Until the storm started to become lighter, East Unicorn Ghost the Arch seemed to have noticed something wrong. He swept his gaze across, and found that the light in the soul restraint cage had dimmed. He couldn't help but turn pale with fright. Qin Yin's spirit body has disappeared. The prefect was stunned, and looked down at the soul restraint cage. His face was ashen, and he hurriedly knelt on the muddy mountain path. Your Majesty? I was clearly here just now. How could I disappear just like that? Could it be, when the storm was pouring just now, Qin Yin's spirit body escaped? East Unicorn Ghost the Arch clenched his fists and said murderously, "It's impossible for a spirit body to break free from the soul-restrained cage by itself. It must have been stolen by someone. Bastard, who could steal Qin Yin's spirit body without me noticing? Your subordinate doesn't know. It must be the old five ghost Thearch's doing. Your Majesty, should we go back and reason with the five ghosts the Arch? We lost Qin Yin's spirit body. Haven't we embarrassed ourselves enough? If we go back now, we will only be a joke to the five ghosts the Arch. Send out all the ghost dragon leaders, and use the spirit-chasing mirror to find Qin Yin's spirit body." Yes. Around him, the ghost dragon leaders all flipped over and rode on the back of the dragon. After rising from the ground, they took out a bright mirror from their bosom, grabbed it in their hands, and shook it towards the ground. Immediately, a cold light poured on the ground, and actually saw the cracks in the ground, the mineral veins, and so on clearly. As long as a spirit body appeared, the spirit-chasing mirror would definitely be able to chase after it. Who exactly is it? I am so angry. East Unicorn Ghost Thearch's face darkened. His treasure was actually stolen from his territory. How could he swallow this anger? If he didn't catch this person and swallow him alive, he wouldn't be able to quench the hatred in his heart. At this moment, a fiery red light flew down from the clouds in the sky. It was a ghost dragon leader that had traversed through plains, holding a long whip that flickered with lightning, stopped in midair, and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, something has happened in the 18 levels of hell." "What about the 18 levels of hell?" East Unicorn Ghost the Arch asked impatiently. "Someone broke into the 18 levels of hell without permission, a man and a woman. The man is called Lin Muyu, the woman, no one knows her name for now." "Lin Muyu?" East Unicorn Ghost the Arch frowned, and said, "Excellency Lei Shi, check if there is such a person's name in the heaven realm." To be able to break into the 18 levels of hell, one must at least have the power of a god, otherwise they would have long been turned into lava. Not far away, a golden-armored excellency waved his hand in the air, and instantly, a huge blood-colored book unfolded in his palm. With a hua sound, countless names flashed in the air, like a slideshow. In the blink of an eye, Excellency Lei Shi shook his head and said, "Reporting to your Majesty, there is no record of Lin Muyu in the list of gods in the heaven realm. This person has not ascended yet." "A wild god that hasn't ascended yet?" East Unicorn Ghost the Arch couldn't help but laugh. The gods of the lower realm are really getting more and more daring. To actually dare to break into the ghost realm, then let's make it so that he can't go back. Excellency Lei Shi nodded. "Your Majesty, you want me to go?" East Unicorn Ghost Thearch's lips curled up, and he laughed sinisterly. "To be able to break into the 18 levels of hell, you must have the ability. Don't waste our people, let that blood-sobbing ghost emperor have a headache. The 18 levels of hell is under his control, it has nothing to do with me. Let's go, back to the underworld spring." At the same time, in the 18 levels of Sod Hell, a dusky palace stood in the middle of this deathly silent land. Desolate bones were everywhere, as well as specters that had been cut into pieces by blades. A row of ghost generals with swords in their hands slowly walked out of the main hall. These were the guards of the blood-sobbing hall, and the one who lived in the main hall was naturally blood-sobbing Ghost Emperor. Female specters carried plates of fruits, dried meat, and other items, and entered the side hall in groups. One of them softly said, "Your Majesty, the heart has been delivered to you." Good. On the blood jade bed, a burly man lay down. His body was covered in blood-red scales. He looked like a monster. He slowly opened his eyes, and 2 blood-red tear grooves could be seen at the bottom of his eyes. This was where the name Blood-Sobbing Ghost Emperor came from. He stood up with the support of the bed, and an invisible aura swept across the surroundings. Blood-Sobbing Ghost Emperor coldly said, "You outside, come in." "Yes." An excellency-level servant pushed the door open, and with an ugly expression, he said, "Your Majesty, something happened up there." "Someone broke in, is it?" "Yes." The prefect-class prefect trembled, and his face was filled with fear. A man and a woman both entered the 18 abysses of punishment, and the prefect class prefect was killed by Lin Muyu. Feng Xing is dead? If he's dead, then so be it. Blood-sobbing Ghost Emperor smiled faintly. Tomorrow, just pick a strong one from the Ghost Generals and promote him to an excellency. And here I thought it was something big. But your majesty, Lin Muyu will be here soon. Are we just going to sit back and do nothing? And that woman seems to be the reincarnation of the nine-tailed demon fox. If your majesty doesn't personally take action, the excellency will not be able to subdue them. I already said it's fine. Blood-sobbing Ghost Emperor frowned and said impatiently, the 18 levels of hell is a place that punishes sinners. No matter who Lin Muyu kills, it won't be considered excessive. Who here doesn't have blood on their hands? Send a few ghost dragon leaders to lure Lin Muyu away, and don't let him get close to the desolate palace. Once Lin Muyu leaves the 18 levels of hell, he will naturally find trouble with the 5 forces and Dong Lin. At that time, it will have nothing to do with me. Yes, your majesty is wise and mighty, your name is known throughout the ghost realm. Everyone, leave us, I want to rest for a while. After the crowd left, the blood-sobbing ghost monarch let out a sigh. He went to the side of the pond in the hall and raised his hand. A ray of light rose into the air and formed a human figure. It was none other than the 7 brilliance demon monarch of the heaven realm. I've already done what you asked. Blood-sobbing Ghost Emperor looked like he was about to cry. Although he was called a Ghost Emperor, he was helpless in front of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. As expected of my old friend. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor laughed and said, don't worry, as long as you don't make things difficult for Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi, I will protect you from the heavens. Blood-sobbing Ghost Emperor's face was filled with black lines. I'm on the ground, and you're in the sky. How can you protect me? I won't ask for anything else, just let my daughter go. Don't worry, old friend. The day Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi leave the ghost realm is the day your daughter returns. She is eating and drinking well in the heaven realm. What are you worried about? Blood-sobbing Ghost Emperor's face was bitter. Do you know how many of my people Lin Muyu killed in the ghost realm? Don't worry, name a price, I'll pay. 100 heavenly Dao lattices. This is robbery. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor waved his hand. 200 mortal lattices. If you want it, then take it. If you don't want it, then forget it. Deal? Blood-sobbing Ghost Emperor's face was black. But, if this brat barges into the ancient desolate palace, then don't blame me for being impolite. Ancient desolate palace? Isn't that where you keep your treasures? The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was stunned. I heard that the ancient desolate palace is guarded by your 10 prefects. Don't worry, you won't be able to enter. That better be the case, otherwise prepare 100 cast immortal lattices. Dream on, those broken things in your ancient desolate palace aren't even worth 10 cast immortal lattices. Don't think that I don't know anything. Alright, telekinesis consumes too much divine power, let's talk next time. As he spoke, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's expression suddenly became serious. Blood-sobbing, you is my only brother in this world. Don't hurt him, otherwise, you know the consequences. The light mist dissipated, and the conversation ended. Blood-sobbing Ghost Emperor no longer had a smile on his face. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's last sentence was said casually, but blood-sobbing Ghost Emperor knew the weight of these words. The reason why the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was called Demon Emperor was because there was nothing in this world that he didn't dare to do. Tens of thousands of God Emperors killing their way into the ghost realm, messing up the laws of the 3 realms, this wasn't something he couldn't do. Chapter 692. The 17th level of Hell, Grindstone Hell. There was only silence in the wilderness, and there was nothing but emptiness. However, there was a small plaza every few miles, and the plaza was filled with huge millstones. The bodies of the ghosts were placed into the millstones, and their bodies were ground into minced meat. Then, the bodies were reconstructed and ground again and again, as if they were concocting medicine. However, the scene looked too cruel. At the northern border of the Grindstone Hell, There was a pitch-black castle. Several black crows perched on the roof tiles, cawing loudly. Around the castle, there were 5 abyssal prefects dressed in golden armor guarding it. All of them were mounted on fine horses and equipped with swords. All of them had ashen expressions as they stared at the sky. Over there was a faint rumble of thunder, and rays of sword light flashed, striking against the spatial walls. "He's coming, that brat is finally coming. What should we do?" A dark-skinned official lord frowned and said, "This is too coincidental. That brat actually landed right above the ancient Desolation Palace? Once he enters the ancient Desolation Palace, I'm afraid we won't be able to bear the consequences if Lord Ghost Emperor blames us." Another official lord had already slowly pulled out his sword and said, "What else can we do? Everyone, go forward and stop this brat at all costs. We can't let him get close to the ancient Desolation Palace." Everyone pulled out their swords. After the official lord gave the order, the tens of thousands of ghost dragon leaders in the distance also took off and hovered in the air like a group of vultures fighting for a piece of meat. Bang! Lightning flashed, and a long sword with dazzling star power pierced through the sky. It forcefully created a pitch-black hole, and the wall of the plane was already broken. In the next moment, a handsome figure leaped in. If it wasn't Lin Muyu, who else could it be? Good heavens! Seeing tens of thousands of ghost dragon leaders in one glance, Lin Muyu was immediately shocked. The 17th level of Purgatory was much more ostentatious than the 16th level. After all, there were only 12 ghost dragon leaders chasing her on the 16th level, and all of them were killed. Her eyes were covered with a layer of golden light, and the 12 spirit beads of law broke out of her body. Without hesitation, Lin Muyu swooped down. Her sword brought out streams of sharp sword energy that wreaked havoc in the crowd. Although it was only 20 levels of divine waves, the spirit beads of law contained the purest divine power in the universe. How could these chaotic practitioners in the ghost realm be a match for it? In the blink of an eye, dozens of ghost dragon leaders had died. The star sword turned into a soaring flame that cut through the crowd and landed on the ground. Coincidentally, its target was the desolate ancient palace. "Bastard!" The black-faced His Excellency shouted loudly. He raised his sword and soared into the sky. His divine power circulated rapidly and instantly condensed into a huge black shield. He wanted to use his cultivation to protect the desolate ancient palace. Bang! When the swords collided, flames burst out and filled the sky. Countless ghost dragon leaders hurriedly retreated. They had already realized that this was a battle between gods. With their strength, they could not intervene at all. They were not even qualified to be cannon fodder. Wah! The black-faced His Excellency spat out a mouthful of blood. Lin Muyu's attack was mighty and forceful. It was beyond his endurance. In the sky, the wind was howling. Lin Muyu held the longsword. Her eyes were filled with ruthless golden light. She said indifferently, "All of you, get out of the way, or you will all die." The power in his body was surging. Ever since he learned that Qin Yin was sent to the Nether Spring, he had entered a frenzied state. He crazily overdrew the power of his supreme godhead. At this moment, his strength was not only twice as strong as when he first entered the ghost realm, but it was also 3 times or even 5 times stronger. So much so that no His Excellency could withstand a round of Lin Muyu's fierce attack. Lin Muyu. The black-faced His Excellency wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He raised his long sword and said, "The person you are looking for is not here. This is the Ghost Emperor's ancient desolate palace. The Qin Yin you are looking for is in the Nether Spring. Why are you wasting your time and energy on us? Your enemy is the East Unicorn Ghost Emperor. Do you understand?" Lin Muyu's gaze shifted to the ancient desolate palace. What was in this inconspicuous ancient castle? He couldn't help but sneer, "You guys are guarding this hall. Who knows if Xiao Yin is imprisoned in here? Get out of the way." "Impudent!" The black-faced His Excellency roared. "Do you know where this place is? This is the Ghost Realm, the resting place of the Ghost Emperor. How dare a rogue god like you act so arrogantly? This is the last time. Get out of the way." Lin Muyu said coldly. The black faced His Excellency and the other four His Excellency had ugly expressions. It was impossible for them to stop Lin Muyu now. If they didn't stop her, none of them would be able to bear the punishment from the blood-sobbing Ghost Emperor. Right at this moment, a voice came from the sky. Forget it. Let him go in and take a look. If Qin Yin isn't here, he should leave. Yes, Ghost Emperor. The group of ghost generals and ghost soldiers all knelt down. However, they knew that the blood-sobbing Ghost Emperor wasn't here. That was just a voice transmission from him. Swish! Lin Muyu turned into a beam of light and rushed into the desolate ancient hall. Holy light lingered around her, and in the next moment, she was already inside the hall. Immediately, Lin Muyu was shocked. So many treasures! The small space had everything. Just the shelves for weapons and armors alone had more than 10 rows. Lin Muyu was an expert. He could tell at a glance that these weapons were at least of the mysterious rank. There were even a few saint-rank weapons. However, he wasn't a greedy person. Naturally, he wouldn't search for other people's treasures here. Moreover, this trip was only for Qin Yin. Thus, he turned a blind eye to the saint-rank weapons and armors. Instead, his eyes fell on a blood-red rope. This was a spiritual rope. When Lin Muyu reached out to grab it, he could feel its power. Under the shelf for the rope, there was a wooden sign with 3 simple words, Spirit Binding Rope. With a light wave of the spirit binding rope, it immediately spun in the air as if it had a mind of its own, as if it was trying to bind something. It was indeed a good treasure. It could even bind an opponent. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. This was something he needed, so he immediately put it into his clothes. The spirit binding rope had already surpassed the knowledge of weapons forging in the human world. Strictly speaking, it should be an artifact and not a weapon. At this time, Lin Muyu's eyes fell on a pitch-black bell next to the weapon shelf. The wooden sign next to it had 3 words, Spirit Frightening Bell. As the name suggested, this item was specially used to deal with ghosts. It was a good item. At least in the ghost realm, it was an exceptional treasure. He grabbed the spirit frightening bell and put it into his cosmos sack. There was no time to waste. He broke through the door with his sword and rushed out from the other side of the ancient desolate palace. He raised his sword and blasted open the surface of the ground. After several slashes, the entire plain shook. Blood-sobbing hall. Blood-sobbing Ghost Emperor trembled with anger when he saw Lin Muyu take away the spirit-binding rope and spirit-frightening bell. These 2 artifacts could be said to be one of the most precious treasures in the ancient desolate palace. Yet they were taken away by this brat. How could this be? The official sovereign at the side said in a low voice, Your Majesty, he has begun to break through the plain wall of the 17th layer of hell. He will soon arrive at the 18th layer. What should we do? Let him continue to run amok like this? We have already lost many ghost generals and ghost pawns. Blood-sobbing Ghost Emperor's expression was cold. He trespassed into my territory and took my treasures. How can I let him off so easily? Immediately pass down my decree. Turn the wheel of time and change the order of the plain wall. Send Lin Muyu directly into the cave of hungry ghosts. The 7 luminaries demon emperor won't let me touch him. However, if Lin Muyu dies in the hands of wild ghosts, then don't blame me. Cave of Hungry Ghosts? The official sovereign couldn't help but tremble. A trace of horror flashed across his face. He said, In the Cave of Hungry Ghosts, the Ghost King that was imprisoned for 30,000 years is there. That's right. Send him into the Cave of Hungry Ghosts. Do it immediately. The wheel of time was a majestic wheel on the ground. It was slowly turning under the push of a group of ghost pawns. The official sovereign at the side saw it clearly. He suddenly raised his hand and said, Stop. It's here. At the same time, a sword light flashed across the sky. However, this time, Lin Muyu didn't appear in the 18th layer of hell. Instead, the space was distorted and she was directly sent into the Cave of Hungry Ghosts. Swoosh. After traveling through space, the surroundings suddenly changed from daytime to darkness. Moreover, the aura of death became even denser. Ghostly wails and wolf howls could be heard all around. The air was very humid. What's wrong? Lin Muyu frowned. She raised her palm, and a celestial dragon crystal glowed, illuminating everything around her. A very frightening scene appeared. This was a huge abyss. The stone walls surrounding the abyss were entrenched with clumps of vines. Between the vines, there were actually hungry ghosts crawling. Some of the hungry ghosts didn't have heads, some didn't have eyes, and some had their mouths sewn up. In any case, none of them could be seen. When these hungry ghosts smelled the scent of a living person, they immediately crawled over while whining. Some even flew up. It was very frightening. Get lost. No matter how brave Lin Muyu was, she was still afraid. With a swing of the long sword in her hand, the law of light sword chi swept across. Dozens of hungry ghosts were cut into puffs of blood mist and exploded. After all, the power of a little ghost couldn't be compared to that of a god. Looking up, the sky was boundless. The only way forward was down. He didn't know where the quiet spring was. He could only take one step at a time. Since the quiet spring was the end of life, it should be in the deepest place, right? It was pitch black here, and it might be very close to the quiet spring. Thinking of this, Lin Muyu gritted her teeth, raised her sword, and rushed down. Maintaining her body relaxed, the supreme god power turned into raging flames and formed a protective aura to burn the hungry ghosts that were attacking her. Her entire body was like a ball of flame as she killed her way to the bottom of the cave of hungry ghosts. Heaven Realm, illusory heavenly lake. Looking at the reflection of Lin Muyu charging into the cave of hungry ghosts, the 7 luminaries demon emperor couldn't help but sneer. That bastard blood-sobbing ghost emperor, he wants to use the hungry ghosts to get rid of you? He's underestimating me too much. Sun Feng said, Demon Emperor, are you really not going to make a trip to the ghost domain? This subordinate just feels that as long as East Unicorn Ghost Emperor, 5-Direction Ghost Emperor, and Blood-Sobbing Ghost Emperor take action, they can easily kill Lin Muyu with their strength. Isn't this a little inappropriate? No. The 7 luminaries demon emperor shook his head. The gods of the heaven realm are not allowed to enter the ghost domain without permission. Don't try it rashly. I don't want to attract the pursuit of the gods of the heaven beyond Avalon. Then what do we do now? Don't worry, I have other ways. The 7 luminaries demon emperor smiled and said, Is Ziyao back yet? She's coming back soon. Chapter 693. After the torrential rain, the sky of the ghost region actually felt a bit brighter. Apart from the ferocious ghost dragons flying through the sky, it could be considered peaceful and tranquil. A bone-chilling voice came from a cave beneath a black mountain range. You are my chief god divine core. No one can take you away from me. It was a monster that looked like a human, but it was naked like a wild ape. Its body was hunched and very thin, and its skin was tattered. There was almost no part of its body that was more than the size of a palm that was intact. Black crystals were embedded in its tattered flesh. They were illusionary crystals, unique crystals that could conceal everything in the world. This was none other than Ghost Hand, who was sent by the ghost emperors of the 5 directions to steal Qin Yin's spirit body. However, Ghost Hand didn't bring Qin Yin's spirit body back to the well of reincarnation. Instead, he tried to take it for himself. Ghost Hand was good at concealment and stealing treasures. He could even escape the eyes of East Unicorn Ghost Emperor. And the price he had to pay was his current appearance. He was neither human nor ghost. This was the result of having over 100 fabrication crystals embedded in his body and overdrafting his life force. Hiss, hiss. At the entrance of the cave, a giant lizard crawled in and stood up in the blink of an eye. It was a middle-aged man with a face covered in terrifying scales. He knelt in front of Ghost Hand and said, Big brother, the ghost emperors of the 5 directions have sent over 10,000 soldiers to patrol the surroundings. It seems like they have found out that you don't want to return the overgod spark. That arrogant idiot. The corners of Ghost Hand's lips curled into a sinister smile. He held a ball of holy light in his hand and said, This is Qin Yin's spiritual body, the vessel of the overgod spark. As long as I refine this overgod spark, I'll be the ruler of the entire ghost realm. What can a mere ghost emperor do? The lizard man cackled and said, "But big brother, you have to be careful. The 5 directions isn't that simple. As long as he opens the celestial eye, nothing in the world can hide from him. Moreover, countless ghost dragon leaders are patrolling the sky with spirit-chasing mirrors. If they find the whereabouts of Qin Yin's spirit body, I'm afraid the ghost emperors of the 5 directions will find this place in 30 minutes. Don't worry." Ghost Hand looked up at the ceiling of the cave and said, "This mountain range is a silver mine. The silver here is close to 300 meters thick, enough to reflect the light of the spirit-chasing mirror. They won't be able to find this place. Little 8, protect me. Big brother is going to refine Qin Yin's spiritual body here and obtain the overgod divine spark. As long as I can become the new ghost emperor, you will be the new ghost king." The lizard man was overjoyed. He stuck out his tongue and said with a smile, "Then it's all up to big brother. I'll go out and protect you." The cave fell silent once more. Ghost Hand held the crystal that was Qin Yin's soul and couldn't help but laugh. "Overgod spark, you're mine." "Ha, you're mine." However, at this moment, Qin Yin's voice sounded from within the crystal. "Disobeying the orders of the 5 ghost emperors is already a crime punishable by death, and now you're dreaming of refining me? You're Qin Yin?" Ghost Hand was stunned, then he smiled. "You're just a ghost imprisoned in a soul crystal. Your death is coming soon. Just wait and see." Energy swirled above the crystal, and Qin Yin's beautiful face appeared faintly. "Very well, I'd like to see how you're going to refine my godhead, you wretched person. Don't scold me." Ghost Hand gritted his teeth and pulled out a space bag from his waist. After rummaging around, he suddenly smiled. Soon, he took out a furnace with a diameter of about. The furnace was enshrouded in blood-colored magic incantations. It was clearly not an ordinary item. "See, do you recognize it? This is the legendary ghost refining furnace. It has the same effect as the soul refining pool. You're just a little ghost. Can you escape the fate of becoming a godhead in the ghost refining furnace?" The more Ghost Hand thought about it, the happier he became. He threw his head back and laughed. The rotten flesh on his abdomen trembled, and it was indescribably disgusting. Qin Yin also fell silent inside the crystal. She really couldn't face the scene in front of her. Swoosh! An enchanting flame appeared in the sky of the 18th level of hell. It was Tang Xiaoxi's 9-tailed divine power. The divine power turned into a fire fox's sharp claws and struck the ground, forcing dozens of ghost dragon leaders back. She stood majestically in the air and looked around with her beautiful eyes. This is the 18th level of hell? We're showing. Tisk, that woman is so arrogant. Do you know what will happen to her for trespassing into the ghost realm?" An abyssal prefect rushed over from afar. He held an iron rod in his hand. The tip of the iron rod was embedded with a spike. It was obvious that he wasn't someone to be trifled with. The wind whistled as the iron rod went straight for Tang Xiaoxi's chest. Puff! With a soft sound, the iron rod seemed to have penetrated Tang Xiaoxi's body. However, it was just an afterimage. The next moment, Tang Xiaoxi's real body had already climbed along the iron rod. She smiled at the abyssal prefect like a beautiful demon fox. Her sharp claws turned into a pink fist, and the moment she passed by, she punched the back of the abyssal prefect's head. Boom! Amidst the crisp sound, the flames turned into a whirling wind. A total of 21 divine waves of the law of fire swirled endlessly in the back of the abyssal prefect's head. He let out a muffled groan and fainted just like that. His body fell from the sky and fell heavily into the wilderness. Tang Xiaoxi's 20 levels of divine power of fire was not very powerful, but when combined with the divine power of the 9-tailed divine power in her body, it was extremely terrifying. Swoosh! The flames swept past their ears. The group of ghost dragon leaders were dumbfounded. Tang Xiaoxi's movement speed was too fast as lightning. In the next moment, a ghost dragon leader was grabbed by the collar by Tang Xiaoxi. A pair of bright eyes looked at the ghost dragon leader. Tang Xiaoxi asked, "Do you know where Qin Yin is?" "Qin Yin has been sent to the Nether Spring." The ghost dragon leader replied in a trembling voice. Nonsense, how could Xiao Yin be sent to the Nether Spring? Tang Xiaoxi widened her beautiful eyes and said, I'll give you a chance to say it again. The ghost dragon leader was a little confused and said, Then, I guess Qin Yin must have been rescued from the hands of the East Unicorn Ghost Emperor. She is now somewhere at the bottom of the ghost domain. Beauty, as long as you go there, you will definitely find her. That's right. Tang Xiaoxi revealed a satisfied smile and said, How do I go to the bottom from here? Over there is a volcano plane passage. You can pass through it? The ghost dragon leader stretched out his hand and pointed into the distance. There was indeed a surge of flame power. At least you know what's good for you. Tang Xiaoxi raised her hand and threw the ghost dragon leader away. The flames around her skyrocketed, and she turned into a meteor and fell into the volcano in the distance. The flame aura protected her body. She kept falling, and at the same time, her heart was in a panic. Was there any use in deceiving herself? If Qin Yin was really sent to the Nether Spring by the East Unicorn Ghost Emperor and was annihilated, it would be difficult for her to atone for her sins in this life. Thinking of this, she became even more confused. Just as her body entered the magma, she sighed softly and said, If I can't save Xiao Yin, then Mu, you must do your best. Xiao Yin has lost her father and the world. She only has the two of us. We must save her. The heavens had taken pity on her. Tang Xiaoxi had said so, but wasn't she the same? After losing all her loved ones, she was also alone. All her worries were with Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. She hated the enchantress to the core. She hated the fact that her heart had wavered and allowed the enchantress to take advantage of her weakness. Time was like water, diluting many things, especially hatred. Back then, Tang Xiaoxi hated Qin Yin for sending Tang Lan to die in the 100 Ridge City. But now, as she grew older, Tang Xiaoxi finally understood some things. If she was in Qin Yin's shoes, what would she do? Would she let Tang Lan and Tang Lu rebel and cause chaos in the world? She was afraid that she would have already sent troops to kill the entire Seven Seas clan. In terms of decisiveness in killing, Tang Xiaoxi was much stronger than Qin Yin. But the world made fools of people. The feudal lord who played with power was her grandfather. It was hard for Tang Xiaoxi to give up. She could only let fate decide. In the end, fate made fools of people, causing everyone to fall into a situation of eternal damnation. We will definitely get out of here alive, won't we? In the magma, Tang Xiaoxi, who was flying through the magma, suddenly revealed a confident smile. That's right, I must firmly believe that the future will become better, and I must return to the beautiful life of the past. Otherwise, how will I face the demons and monsters in front of me, and the evil of the ghost Tao? Swoosh, swoosh, the fierce, fiery red hurricane constantly battered the stellar energy on the surface of her body. Lin Muyu held her long sword and continuously descended into the depths of the cave of hungry ghosts. However, the fiery red hurricane seemed to be getting stronger and stronger. Even the vengeful ghosts in the surroundings didn't dare to get close. Moreover, this was not ordinary wind, but dimensional wind. It was similar to Feng Jixing's attack. When it hit the protective stellar energy, it consumed a lot of divine power. Phew! Taking a deep breath, Lin Muyu turned around and left the center of the cave of hungry ghosts while her body was recovering. She couldn't force her way through. Otherwise, she would probably die from depleting all her cultivation before she even saw Qin Yin. After flying to the stone wall, she turned around and saw a fiery red hurricane shooting into the sky from the center of the cave of hungry ghosts like a pillar of fire. Those who entered the cave of hungry ghosts could only fly along the stone wall. Otherwise, they would be quickly devoured by the dimensional storm. Not to mention a godly venerable one, even a god emperor would die from depleting all their divine power. Lin Muyu held the star's sword in her hand and slowly descended while maintaining an upright posture. She observed the surroundings of the stone wall to see if it was safe. However, she saw that the stone wall was covered with vines, and between the vines were countless surprises. All sorts of wild ghosts and skeletons were waiting for her. It was unknown how many years these ghosts had been starving. They were all skin and bones, scarily thin. Wah. A zombie with half its head bitten off climbed the vines with one hand and extended its other hand towards Lin Muyu. It seemed to want to taste the stranger. There was a big hole in its head, and its flesh had already rotted away. Stink. Lin Muyu frowned. What the hell was this? Chapter 694. Just as the zombie's palm was about to grab Lin Muyu, a hissing sound suddenly came from the side. It was a huge grayish-brown lizard. The lizard's 4 legs grabbed onto vines, and it crawled along the stone walls like a gecko. It suddenly pounced forward and opened its mouth, revealing sharp and sinister teeth under the firelight. With a poochie sound, it bit off the other half of the zombie's head in one bite. It chewed and swallowed in enjoyment, as if it didn't mind the stench at all. Whoosh, whoosh. The zombie's arms blankly clawed at the air, but after losing its head, it couldn't see anything clearly. One slip and it would fall, unable to even cry out. Lin Muyu frowned as she watched the huge lizard crawl towards another zombie and bite it in half at the waist. Black blood flowed wantonly, and it was an extremely disgusting sight. Zombie lizard, a species in the cave of hungry ghosts. It fed on the lowest level of hungry ghosts. Lin Muyu slowly descended. She simply couldn't imagine why a place like the cave of hungry ghosts would exist in this world. There were countless hungry ghosts on the 4 walls here. They should have all been humans when they were alive, right? Although she didn't know which plane they were from, just how big of a crime did they commit that they had to suffer such torment after death? The cave of hungry ghosts had layers upon layers of spider webs. It was unknown how many years it had been since anyone had taken care of it. Perhaps in the eyes of the people in the ghost realm, this place was just like a livestock farm. There was no need to take care of it, and they could just let it run its own course. Everything in the world followed the law of the jungle. It seemed to be even more savage in the ghost realm. This was the true law of the jungle. Compared to this, the Shattered Cauldron realm's level of civilization was already much higher. At this moment, a zombie lizard suddenly jumped up from the stone wall, opened its sharp claws, and charged straight at Lin Muyu. Courting death. The sword light flashed, and the zombie lizard was cut into 2 halves. Its blood splattered on the strong wall 10 centimeters away from Lin Muyu's body. Lin Muyu didn't want to provoke it, but this beast actually dared to court death. It simply didn't know what it was doing. However, this was the way of the world. Beasts would never know the meaning of fear. These zombie lizards and hungry ghosts could not feel the powerful sovereign god pressure from Lin Muyu at all. One after another, they pounced on her and became sacrifices for the star's sword. In the blink of an eye, Lin Muyu had already killed hundreds of hungry ghosts and zombie lizards. After a long while, just as Lin Muyu was rapidly descending, a woman's voice suddenly came from the stone wall. "Young hero, save me! Young hero, save me!" It was a young woman. Lin Muyu frowned. Would there be living people in a place like the Hungry Ghost Cave? Unless this woman had the same cultivation as Chu. However, the danger level of this Hungry Ghost Cave was even greater than the Dragon Abyss where Chu was imprisoned. Calculating in his mind, there was a 99% chance that this woman was a scam. This woman was definitely not a good person. However, just for the 1% chance, Lin Muyu still wanted to give it a try. There was no such thing as not doing a small favor. Flying in the direction of the voice, Lin Muyu raised his long sword and poured his divine power into the sword. It was as bright as the moon, illuminating the far and near. Lin Muyu saw a woman with half of her body stuck in the crack of the stone wall. Only half of her face was exposed. She looked in the direction of the light and said, "Young hero, save me. I can't move anymore. Who are you? Why are you here?" Lin Muyu asked calmly. "This little girl is called Slave Nian. After I died on the surface, I have been imprisoned here for more than 3,000 years. Young hero, save me, take me into reincarnation. I really can't stand this kind of life anymore." As she spoke, she began to cry, like a pear blossom dripping with rain. This slave Nian's appearance was not bad. Her beauty was also considered to be above average. Moreover, half of her body was stuck in the crack of the stone wall. The other half of her body was also very enchanting outside the crack. Her dress had long been tattered. Her slender snow-white legs stepped on a protruding rock. Her perfectly round buttocks were faintly discernible under a bunch of vine branches and leaves. Her twin peaks stood erect like the clouds. She was indeed a stunner. Perhaps any man in the world who saw such a woman would not be able to resist giving a helping hand, right? Lin Muyu was also a man, but he only saved her out of sympathy. "Grab my hand." Lin Muyu stretched out his left hand and said, "I will pull you out." "Thank you, young hero. Thank you, young hero." Slave Nian said gratefully again and again. One of her soft hands grabbed Lin Muyu's palm. It was ice cold. She was a dead thing, so naturally, it was ice cold. Lin Muyu slowly exerted her strength. Suddenly, Slave Nian's body was pulled in extreme pain. She hurriedly said, "Young hero, this won't do. It's too painful. This servant's body is completely stuck. I hope young hero can think of another way." As she spoke, a wisp of captivating red floated across her face. She said, "Perhaps, young hero can use your long sword to open the rock. This way, this servant can get out." "No need." Lin Muyu lightly said, "I will inject divine power into your body. You can struggle out on your own." "Thank you, young hero." Lin Muyu slowly exerted her strength. A wisp of Supreme God's power seeped into Slave Nian's body through her palm. The divine power greatly protected Slave Nian's body. Lin Muyu exerted her strength again. Suddenly, the rock collapsed. The other half of Slave Nian's body was also free. However, at the moment of freedom, Slave Nian revealed a sinister face. His bony left hand was wrapped in the Supreme God's power bestowed by Lin Muyu. The other half of his face was actually a rotten skeleton. It was extremely sinister. She changed from her previous gentleness and laughed wildly. "Brat, do you want to fuck this old lady? Come on, this old lady is right here. But first, eat this old lady's palm." The red refined skeleton was another kind of monster that lived in the Hungry Ghost Cave. It lived by absorbing the essence of living beings. It had the body of half a beautiful woman. It was like an evil beast that relied on its body to attract prey. However, Lin Muyu had already expected this move. For people like Slave Nian, if she could save him, then she would save him. If she couldn't save him, then she would kill him. The Supreme God's power in Slave Nian's palm was less than 1/1000th of Lin Muyu's. Naturally, she didn't put it in her eyes at all. Her iron fist moved horizontally. Bang! The left palm was smashed open. A sword light flashed. Die! Slave Nian probably didn't think that this brat would be so ruthless. With one sword, he cut her into 2 halves. Blood splattered everywhere. The power contained in the sword burst out. The red refined skeleton instantly turned into a bloody mist and died. Lin Muyu looked at the rock covered in black blood. She couldn't help but sigh. There were all kinds of false illusions in the world. How many ugly bones were hidden under the pink skin? But how many people in the world could see through it? As he went down, there were all kinds of voices coming from the stone wall again. "Hero, save me. Young hero, please wait. Young hero, save this old man. Young hero, don't go. Save my life. This little girl is willing to devote her life to you and serve you wholeheartedly." However, Lin Muyu didn't look back. These red refined skeletons appeared in all kinds of forms, including old people, children, men, and women. Their purpose was to gain sympathy and then kill them to absorb the souls of the good ones. However, he didn't kill these red refined skeletons one by one. The less trouble, the better. He came here just to find Qin Yin. He was powerless to change or reverse the laws of life and death in the ghost domain. These laws were determined by heaven and enforced by the 3 great ghost emperors. How could he, a mere 20th level heavenly abode ultimate god, care about it? However, the deeper he flew, the more intense the burning feeling became. Soon, everything was almost evaporated. Lin Muyu had no choice but to use his divine power to form a shield to protect himself. Even if his divine body was unharmed, his clothes would soon be burned to ashes. He didn't want to meet Qin Yin naked. Under the spiritual pulse technique, a strong aura appeared below. The expert seemed to have noticed his arrival as the aura was getting stronger and more vigorous. Lin Muyu didn't stop flying. He could feel that although the power was strong, it was not above him. When he flew within a few dozen meters of the aura, he began to stare at the stone wall beside him. There were faint blood-red restrictive runes on the stone wall, and the power inside was about to come out. Bang! Nearly 100 meters of the stone wall suddenly collapsed and exploded. A fiery red claw flew out and went straight for Lin Muyu's chest. The intruder didn't come with good intentions and was too direct. However, Lin Muyu's reaction was too fast. Her sharp claws only managed to grab onto the afterimage, but Lin Muyu's real body had already swung down from the sky with her sword in hand. Supreme divine force was infused in her long sword, transforming into sword chi that rained down heavily on the huge arm's wrist. Boom! The energy surged out, and the skin of this fiery red wrist seemed to have been split open. Fiery red magma splashed out, burning the group of hungry ghosts on the rock walls and causing them to scream miserably. They were simply unable to participate in a battle of this level, but they were still caught in the crossfire. "Get out here!" Lin Muyu shouted as he stepped on the void and suddenly opened his palm. The power of the law of wind surged and an invisible storm erupted in the stone wall, forcibly pulling the giant beast out. Roar, roar! Amidst the angry roar, this was a ferocious beast covered in fiery red skin. Amidst the flames, a pair of brown eyes were incomparably terrifying. Flame Demon, one of the guardians of the Cave of Hungry Ghosts, a ferocious beast without any humanity. The Flame Demon didn't even greet her. With a roar, he punched out with both fists, heading straight for Lin Muyu. He looked like he was going to crush this human who was only the size of his toes with his fists. Lin Muyu laughed loudly and suddenly held the stellar sword horizontally in front of his chest. With a roar, the sword light extended to both sides, turning into a sword of light nearly 10 meters long. When the Flame Demon's fists landed, there were two poochie sounds as the sword energy directly left two large holes in the Flame Demon's fists. At the same time, Lin Muyu had already stepped on the flames and headed straight for the Flame Demon's head. She raised her iron fist and heavily struck the Flame Demon's head with the power of the 5 mountains descending from the heavens. Boom! The collision of energy formed a piercingly cold shockwave that shook half of the Cave of Hungry Ghosts. The Flame Demon's skull had already been smashed to pieces. Blood mixed with brain matter splattered everywhere, but it was only injured and not dead. It still continued to swing its fists at Lin Muyu. There were a total of 31 golden lines on its head. Good heavens, a 30,000-year-old spirit beast! No wonder it was sent to guard this place. This Flame Demon's actual strength was already at the level of a divine beast. However, in front of Lin Muyu, who had a supreme godhead, it was still unable to withstand a single blow. Chapter 695. I can't hurt this spirit stone. Lin Muyu immediately made up her mind. This spirit stone might not be much in the ghost domain, but in the Shattered Cauldron realm, it was a supreme existence. Moreover, Lin Muyu had already guessed that someone must have deliberately reversed the spatial laws and sent her to this place where she shouldn't have been. That person wanted to use the Flame Demon to get rid of her. That's fine too. I'll kill everyone here. Boom. The Flame Demon's fist landed ruthlessly, but it only hit Lin Muyu's afterimage. The Flame Demon's speed was fast enough, but Lin Muyu was even faster. She was so fast that the Flame Demon couldn't catch up at all. Hence, the Flame Demon attacked left and right while Lin Muyu was like a stream of light that the Flame Demon couldn't catch. After a while, the Flame Demon was already riddled with wounds. Roar! The flames gradually separated, revealing the Flame Demon's fist that had been cut by the sharp sword. It was truly enraged. However, would anger be of any use when facing someone stronger than it? Moreover, the opponent was a very calm and composed expert. This determined the Flame Demon's fate even more. Lin Muyu silently took out the demonic sonar saber from her waist. With a surge of divine power, for small demonic sonar sabers rushed out under the sword-driving chi mental cultivation technique, sweeping up a dragon-like storm. The huge dragon lingered around the flame demon's fist and arm, gradually devouring it. The small demonic sonar sabers were extremely sharp. They danced and slashed crazily. In the blink of an eye, the flame demon's entire arm was dismembered. "I'll grant you a quick death." Lin Muyu raised her arms and dragged a bright moon. It was the astral art's long river-setting moon. Boom! The seemingly small body burst forth with earth-shattering power. With just one strike, the flame demon's body was smashed into the stone wall. The entire hungry ghost cave trembled as countless rocks fell from the sky. Roar! The flame demon's vitality was just too strong. It didn't die even after such an injury. Its left fist turned into a sharp claw and swept towards Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth, and the wind around her fist suddenly danced wildly. A patch of blood red appeared, and she struck at Flame Demon's heart. 5 elements, 8 wastelands annihilation. Boom! The force of the fist pierced straight through the Flame Demon's chest, shattering its heart into pieces. This time, no matter how strong the demonic beast was, it could not withstand such an injury. With a miserable whimper, it finished the last part of its life. Lin Muyu looked at the flame demon that had already lost all signs of life, her eyes cold. She raised her hand and gently sucked the fist-sized spirit stone over. It was a spirit stone of the law of fire, 31,200 years old. This was a good thing. After throwing it into the cosmos sack, she could sell it for a huge sum of money when she returned to the Shattered Cauldron realm. 150 kilometers southeast of the Well of Reincarnation, dark clouds covered the sky and covered the sun, as though it was the end of the world. On the mountain peak under the thick clouds, a bolt of lightning shot straight into the sky, with the power to pierce through the vault of heaven. There was naturally a reason for such a natural phenomenon. The cave in the mountain flickered with light, and the exquisite ghost refining furnace trembled slightly. Meanwhile, Ghost Hand stirred up all his cultivation, turning his energy into flames to refine the crystals in the furnace. The crystals transformed into another world. Raging flames descended from the sky, and Qin Yin, dressed in a white dress, quietly stood in the sea of flames. The spirit essence around her turned into a shield, isolating the flames from the outside world. "Little lass, you do have some ability." Ghost Hand's expression became more and more ferocious, and the dark force in his hand suddenly doubled in intensity. He said, "I want to see how a little lass like you can withstand the flames of the ghost refining furnace. If you had accepted your fate earlier, you would have suffered less pain. Why struggle so bitterly?" Qin Yin, who was in the furnace, did not speak, but frowned slightly. She was pleasantly surprised to find that she could actually see the EC from the ghost refining furnace. When her spiritual body entered the EC, she could see a nearly dried-up ocean. At the same time, there was a light law godhead that was riddled with holes. After being destroyed, the overgod godhead was not as strong as it was before, but it was still the overgod godhead. Qin Yin flew over and gently stopped beside the overgod godhead. She reached out and gently hugged the godhead that was about to wither, and immediately felt a mysterious divine power flow into her body. The overgod godhead seemed to feel its master's love and heartache. It emitted strands of light energy that wrapped around Qin Yin. Qin Yin was distressed that the godhead had suffered so many attacks, but how could the godhead not feel distressed for its master's suffering? Just like that, Qin Yin hugged the godhead and stayed in the EC like a fairy in the sky. The complementary power between her body and the godhead gradually manifested. Following the sound of a flowing stream, spring water appeared in the dried-up EC. In the blink of an eye, it gathered into a river, and a moment later, it had reformed into a new EC. The EC was the place where a god realm cultivator stored their godhead, and it was also the source of their power. The revival of the EC naturally brought about the rapid recovery of Qin Yin's power. In the blink of an eye, the divine power in her body had already recovered by about 50%. Qin Yin was overjoyed. She didn't expect that Ghost Hand's ghost refining furnace would miraculously restore her divine power. In this way, she wouldn't have to die in the ghost refining furnace. She opened her palm, and a heavenly dragon crystal instantly condensed. Within the dragon crystal, waves of divine power surged, and there were a total of 24 waves. Qin Yin couldn't help but frown. The 6 paths of reincarnation had already damaged her cultivation by a lot. She still remembered that when she was mistakenly killed by Tang Xiaoxi, she was able to summon 29 waves of heavenly caves. Now she had lost 5 waves. But it didn't matter. She could cultivate her cultivation back, and the most important thing was not to die here. Outside the ghost refining furnace, Ghost Hand looked at the frowning Qin Yin in the furnace. Her protective divine power was already slowly disintegrating. He laughed and said, "Little brat, let's see how you are going to struggle. Prepare to die, and this overgod spark is mine." Qin Yin didn't say anything. She only kept the divine power that could protect her innate body outside the furnace. As for the rest, she had entered the EC. She still needed some time in the ghost refining furnace. Just 50% of her divine power wasn't enough. She needed at least 80% of her divine power to survive in this dangerous world. The overgod spark was a gift, but it was also a danger. There were too many people who wanted to get the overgod spark. Jie. Screams of ghost dragons came from the sky. Footsteps could be heard outside the cave. Lizardman walked in with an ugly expression and said, "Big brother, the ghost emperors of the 5 directions are circling the mountain. There are strange phenomena in the sky. Lightning strikes the mountain. It seems to be caused by Big Brother refining the overgod spark. Many people have come. The situation is not good." Ghost Hand narrowed his eyes and said, "I'm almost done refining it. Wait a little longer. How many troops have come from the Well of Reincarnation?" 28 prefects, more than 20,000 ghost dragon leaders, and at least 200,000 soul hunters. Their numbers are too many to count. "Big brother, let's go quickly. If we don't leave now, it will be too late. His Majesty will punish us severely because you didn't give Qin Yin's innate body to the Ghost Emperor in time. He might even send us to the Netherworld." "Are the 5 directions here?" Ghost Hand asked. "I don't see them." It's fine if the Ghost Emperors of the 5 directions aren't here. I won't care about those shrimp soldiers and crab generals very soon. Little 8, don't go out. Protect me here. We will leave in an hour." "Yes, big brother." Thunder rumbled on the mountain peak as countless ghost dragon leaders hovered in the air. High up in the clouds, a group of generals clad in golden armor and cloaks stared coldly at the mountains. These people were all abyssal prefects under the command of the ghost emperors of the 5 directions. Now, they had all gathered here just for the sake of Qin Yin's spiritual body. Lu Ha, a red-faced abyssal prefect, placed his hand on his sword and said, "You were the one who lured this ghostly hand into serving the ghost monarch. Now that he has betrayed the ghost monarch, you should be the one to punish him. Why don't you go capture him?" The prefect named Lu Ha smiled calmly and said, "Chi Gue, since we are here, let's not beat around the bush. Let's just go and eliminate Ghost Hand together." "What, you don't dare?" Chi Gue sneered. Lu Ha sneered. Ghost Hand stole the ghost refining cauldron from the Ghost Emperor's treasury. Maybe he has already refined Qin Yin's overgod spark. Once he has the overgod spark, with his ability to come and go without a trace, which prefect can be his match? So that's how it is. Chi Gue pulled out a small flag from his waist and said, "All ghost dragon leaders listen up. Attack immediately. Go to the cave and kill Ghost Hand for me. Find Qin Yin's innate body, dead or alive." "Yes, prefect." The ghost dragon leaders obeyed. Just as they were about to leave, the sky suddenly turned red. The earth trembled and the sky seemed to be on fire. "What's going on?" The prefects all looked up at the sky. A pillar of fire pierced through the dark clouds and landed on the clouds the prefects were standing on. The 28 prefects all retreated in shock. Their faces were full of shock. Where did this come from? What a fierce fire! In the sky, A beautiful girl came over on the fire clouds and said indifferently, "You were talking about Qin Yin. Where is Qin Yin?" "Or you?" Prefect Chi Gue raised his eyebrows. "Don't care who I am, where is Qin Yin?" The girl's voice was very cold, completely different from the fire around her. "Why should I tell you?" Chi Gue sneered. "This girl seems to be the one who caused havoc in the upper realm. Men used the spirit-chasing mirror to shine on her." The ghost dragon leaders all took out their spirit-chasing mirrors and the light gathered on Tang Xiaoxi. But Tang Xiaoxi acted like nothing happened. She giggled, "A bunch of idiots. She is not a ghost, she is a living person." Finally, one of the prefects came to a realization. At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi's heart jumped. A familiar feeling came from the mountain. It was Qin Yin. Xiao Yin. Tang Xiaoxi was so excited that her whole body trembled. Her nose was so sore that she almost cried. In the blink of an eye, she turned into a stream of light and fell into the mountain range, following the wisp of aura that Qin Yin had revealed. "I finally found you." Chapter 696. In the ravenous ghost cavern, dimensional storms swirled incessantly as the ravenous ghosts on the walls howled incessantly. They yearned for fresh flesh and blood, and Lin Muyu was no doubt a temptation filled with deterrence. Even though they knew that the young man was skilled, the ravenous ghosts on the walls continued crawling over. They were willing to pay with their lives for a drop of blood. Lin Muyu's aura was steady. Killing the flame demon had used up at least 30% of his strength, and he needed to recover in a short period of time. When he looked down at the bottom of the cave of hungry ghosts, he could feel a dense chill. There was definitely an opponent even more powerful than the flame demon down there. Those people had sent him into the cave of hungry ghosts to kill him with a borrowed knife, and that knife was clearly not the flame demon. Suddenly, a miserable howl came from the sky. It was the person who had been transported into the cave of hungry ghosts. A young man dressed like a scholar fell down from the sky while howling miserably. He was blown away by the hurricane of the central fire pillar and kept falling down on the stone wall. Finally, he was caught by a one-eyed hungry ghost who had sharp eyes and agile hands. Accompanied by a hissing sound, the hungry ghost bit off the scholar's wrist. A few hungry ghosts on the side also crawled over one after another, tying the scholar up in the middle of the vines. The sounds of gnawing and screeching became one. Lin Muyu furrowed her brows. She didn't even have the time to save the scholar before he died. The cave of hungry ghosts was indeed not a place for the living. She didn't know what crime the scholar had committed to receive such a punishment. At this moment, another 3 people flew down from the sky. Pa pa pa, sounds of explosions could be heard. They weren't really flying. Instead, they were relying on the wind attribute Do Qi to maintain their bodies in the air. This was very exhausting, but it was also the only way for cultivators who hadn't stepped into the godly state to stay in the air. Of the 3, 2 were relatively young, around 30 years old. The other was an elder with white hair and a beard. His face was ruddy, and he had the power of the peak of the divine heaven realm. He did not look like a dead person. In fact, Lin Muyu could even sense the aura of life from these 3 people with his spirit pulse technique. These 3 were alive, so where did they come from? Roar roar, several malicious spirits swooped down and went straight for one of the bald martial artists. Impudent! With a single palm strike, the 3 hungry ghosts were all turned into minced meat. The king-level battle flame enshrouded the area. Sure enough, the strength of these 3 people could not be underestimated. Moreover, their attacks were ruthless. With a single glance, one could tell that they were the type of people who were numb to killing. After the expert with the glowing head killed the 3 hungry ghosts, he suddenly saw Lin Muyu through the leaves and vines. He couldn't help but frown. "Elder, there's a human here. Living or dead?" The hale and hearty old man was startled and followed his subordinate's gaze. He didn't even sense the presence of Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu took a few steps back. She stretched out her hand and grabbed a bunch of vines hanging in the wind. She looked at the 3 of them quietly. They came with ill intentions. The 3 of them stepped on the air waves and walked over. The young expert with long hair tied behind his back cupped his fists and said, "Young hero, how did you come to this place that is neither human nor ghost? Where are you from?" Lin Muyu pondered for a moment, then calmly cupped her fists and said, "I come from the plane of the Shattered Cauldron realm. My name is Lin Muyu." "Oh." The young expert smiled. "May I know why young hero has come here?" Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said, "It's not that I want to come, but that I mistakenly entered this place. I don't even know what this place is called." "You don't even know what it's called?" The young expert couldn't help but be stunned. He smiled and said, "This place is called the Cave of Hungry Ghosts, one of the most dangerous places in the Nether Realm. I think young hero should leave as soon as possible. This is not a place for you to stay." "Is that so? Who are you and why are you here?" Lin Muyu asked. "We." The young man laughed and said, "We come from the Celestial Pole continent, a plane that is completely different from the Shattered Cauldron realm. The three of us are from the Thunderblaze sect, one of the three great sacred sects of the Celestial Pole continent. This is one of the elders of our Thunderblaze sect, Elder Zhu Han." Zhu Han cupped his fists and smiled faintly with a profound meaning. "Young hero, it must not have been easy for you to come to this place alone. Presumably, this Zhu Han's status in the Thunderblaze sect was quite high, right?" Lin Muyu's gaze swept over Zhu Han. His cultivation was flourishing and could probably break through the sacred realm and step into the divine realm at any time. However, this old man didn't seem to be willing to ascend. Instead, he was like Feng Jixing, forcefully staying in the human realm and not stepping into the divine realm. "Greetings, Elder Zhu Han." Lin Muyu nodded with a smile. Zhu Han also nodded indifferently and said, "Young hero, when we came here, we saw the corpse of a ferocious beast embedded in the stone wall. It should be the flame demon from the Cave of Hungry Ghosts. The flame demon is a sacred beast with a lifespan of tens of thousands of years. The spirit stone has already been taken. I wonder if it was young hero's masterpiece?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel the gazes of the three become gloomy. Once she admitted that she killed the flame demon, wouldn't the spirit stone attract a fatal disaster? It was better to avoid trouble, even though she wasn't afraid of these three. "No, how could I have the ability to kill the flame demon? It was already dead when I came." "Then it seems that it was done by someone else." A trace of disdain flitted across the corners of the old man's mouth. The bald martial artist's disdain became even more intense. He said, "This boy looks gentle and refined, but he can't even release the power in his body. I think he's at most a heaven realm trash. Maybe he'll die in the mouth of some hungry ghost. Elder Zhu Han, let's not waste too much time on this kind of person. It's more important to find the divine ghost spark as soon as possible. Only by obtaining the divine ghost spark can you become one of the elders of the 5 great saint sects. Then, our Thunderflame sect will have more power to compete with the Celestial Harmony sect and the Celestial Ju sect." Zhu Han didn't say another word to Lin Muyu, as if in his eyes, Lin Muyu had already become a dead person. The bald martial artist sneered at Lin Muyu from afar and said, "Boy, behave yourself. This is not a place you should be. It's better for you to get out of here as soon as possible. Otherwise, I don't mind sending you on your way." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh and said, "If you really want to kill me, why don't you try?" "What did you say?" The bald man shouted angrily. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. His eyes were cold and a gust of cold air spread around. Although he didn't show his divine power, the powerful realm power was enough to shock Zhu Han and the others. "Then, young hero." Zhu Han cupped his fists and said, "Goodbye." "Goodbye." Lin Muyu nodded. Lin Muyu could not help but frown as she watched the three of them walk on the wind. This place was originally called the Cave of Hungry Ghosts, but it had become even more confusing. Wasn't this place known as the Ghost Domain? Why could these three experts who had not yet stepped into the divine realm come here? What was the divine ghost spark they were looking for? Wasn't the divine spark divided into 5 grades? What grade was the divine ghost spark? Thinking of this, her thoughts became even worse. She would stay here for a while and recover her strength before going to the bottom to explore. An hour later, the divine power in her body began to fill up. It was time to see what was in the deeper parts of the hungry ghost cave. After sheathing the sword, Lin Muyu turned into a stream of light and rushed to the bottom of the cave. Using the supreme divine power to protect her body, she crushed all the hungry ghosts and vines that tried to block her way. Her speed was extremely fast. Using the spirit pulse technique, she constantly detected the auras in her surroundings, but all she got was an aura of death. After flying for nearly 5 minutes, 3 human auras appeared below. Needless to say, they were Zhu Han and the others. Be careful! Under the illumination of the pillar of fire, Zhu Han and the others were fighting against a huge monster. It was a bloated worm, twisting its oily body as it crawled along the walls of the cave. It looked like a giant maggot, and it just so happened to be the species, the giant purgatory maggot, a special product of the depths of the hungry ghost cave. Light erupted around Zhu Han, and a flying dagger appeared in his hand. Accompanied by lightning, the dagger pierced into the giant purgatory maggot's body and immediately charred its skin. However, it didn't seem to be able to kill it. Instead, the giant purgatory maggot turned around and spat out a mouthful of venomous saliva, which turned into a poisonous rain. Be careful, it's frost poison. Zhu Han let loose an almighty roar as her battle flames manifested as a suit of battle armor to protect her body. The poisonous rain continued to crackle as it struck the suit of battle armor, seemingly trying to erode its energy. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu looked on with a cold expression on her face. The poisonous rain was completely unable to approach her body, and it was all repelled by the wall of energy conjured up by her supreme divine power. Use the beast hunting crossbow. Zhu Han shouted. The bald martial artist immediately took out a pitch-black crossbow bolt from his spatial bag. The bolt was extremely large, and there was a thin rope attached to its back. With a whoosh, it shot deep into the giant purgatory maggot's body. He immediately stepped on wind energy and began to move, using the rope to cut the giant purgatory maggot's body. Another young martial artist wielded a sword and leaped onto the giant purgatory maggot's back. Sword chi swept across the maggot, leaving deep wounds on its body. At this moment, Lin Muyu finally understood what this group of people were here for. They were more like a group of hunters, traversing through dimensions to the cave of hungry ghosts, a barren land forgotten by the ghost realm, to hunt for the remaining valuables. This purgatory giant maggot was a 15,000 years old spiritual beast, so they were probably here for the spirit stones. At this time, Zhu Han also noticed Lin Muyu's arrival. He said coldly, "Young hero, we can handle this giant purgatory maggot ourselves. There's no need for you to do anything." "I know." Lin Muyu looked at him indifferently. She stood majestically in the air, her short, dark green cloak fluttering in the strong wind behind her. It wasn't difficult for these 3 to kill the giant purgatory maggot, but it would be difficult for them to escape unscathed. Lin Muyu clearly saw that the young martial artist and the bald martial artist's battle armor had already been corroded. Even the bald martial artist's shoulder had turned purple, infected by the giant purgatory maggot's corpse energy. Chapter 697. The purgatory giant maggot was bloated, so it was not easy to kill it. Although Zhu Han bombarded it with the power of the law of thunder and lightning again and again, the purgatory giant maggot was injured but did not die. On the contrary, the other 2 slightly younger martial artists were showing signs of weakness. Lin Muyu stood majestically in the storm formed by the battle and sighed in her heart. "Let's do it. Watching these 3 people die in front of us is not a heroic act." She quickly clenched her 5 fingers into a fist, and suddenly, a spirit bead of law quietly submerged into the air. Law of space, dimensional attack. The principle of this attack was very simple. Use the law of space to transfer a tyrannical attack. Bang! The purgatory giant maggot that was writhing on the rock wall suddenly trembled. Its heart was already damaged, and Lin Muyu's punch had directly shattered its heart. It wailed miserably as it fell to the ground. This blow was too fatal. Finally dead. Zhu Han's eyes lit up with a red light, and he was overjoyed. "Quick, Plunder the spirit stones. Yes, Elder. The young martial artist jumped on the head of the giant maggot, waved his long sword, and plundered the spirit stones. Then he flew back to his original position, but it seemed that he had touched the wound that had been infected by corpse energy. He could not help but frown and let out a miserable howl. How is the injury? Zhu Han asked. Fortunately, the corpse energy has entered the bone, but this arm is probably gone, the young martial artist said. The bald man on the side was even more miserable. The flesh on his shoulder had begun to rot, revealing the scapula. It was very frightening. The most frightening thing was that he did not feel any pain. He blankly looked at Zhu Han and said, "Elder, I'm afraid I don't have much time left." After saying that, the bald man sat down on the rock between the vines. Looking at the hungry ghosts coming from all directions, he bitterly smiled and said, "I didn't expect that Du Guxing, would end up like this. I have killed many hungry ghosts in my life, but now I am going to become food for hungry ghosts." Zhu Han frowned, but his eyes fell on Lin Muyu, who was standing behind him. The purgatory maggot had suddenly died a moment ago, and Zhu Han could clearly feel the energy fluctuations in the maggot's body. There must be someone helping him, and this person was undoubtedly Lin Muyu. He lowered his proud head and said, "Young hero, do you have a way to save Du Guxing?" "He called me trash. Why should I save him?" Lin Muyu said lightly. Zhu Han was startled. He said, "Du Guxing has always been a wanton and unrestrained person. I hope young hero won't take offense. Saving a life is more important." Humph. Lin Muyu flew towards Du Guxing. At this time, Zhu Han, Du Guxing, and the others discovered that this person was flying without the help of anything. He was just walking in the air. Without a doubt, this handsome young man in front of them was actually a God realm expert. Heavens! The young man muttered, "We met a god." When he saw Lin Muyu flying over, Du Guxing endured the pain, raised his head, and shouted in a low voice, "You get lost, I don't need your help." But Lin Muyu raised his hand and gave him a fierce slap, causing him to feel a burning pain. He smiled and said, "How is it? Does it still hurt?" "It hurts." Motherf *Ker. As one of the Iron Guards of the Thunder Flame sect, Du Guxing had never suffered this kind of humiliation. He roared, "You dare to hit me?" Lin Muyu turned his hand and gave him another slap. This time, one of Du Guxing's front teeth was knocked out. "You bastard!" Du Guxing roared, but his body couldn't move. He was completely controlled by Lin Muyu's god's domain. He raised his head and saw the smile on Lin Muyu's face, which looked like a devil's smile. "Young hero, why did you hit him?" Zhu Han asked. "I hit him in pain, which means that the corpse energy hasn't invaded his neck." "Then, why did you hit him a second time? Because he deserved it?" There was a hint of coldness in Lin Muyu's eyes. Her entire body shone with a dazzling golden light. Her eyes were covered with a layer of golden light. This was the form that a divine state expert used to increase his divine power. She looked coldly at Du Guxing and said, "Who did you say was trash?" Du Guxing was so scared that his face turned green. The Thunder Flame sect's elders were all God state experts, so he naturally knew what a God state expert looked like. He trembled all over and said, This kid has eyes but can't see. Please spare my life, young hero, trash." Lin Muyu looked at him indifferently. Suddenly, a dragon crystal flashed in her palm and released a dazzling holy light. This was the power of the law of light. Moreover, this was the purest power of the law of light of the Supreme God. It was comparable to the divine power of the law of light of the Lord God of the law of light. The corpse energy was of the Yin attribute, so it was naturally afraid of light. Under the strong light, Du Guxing's withered flesh turned red in the blink of an eye. Not long after, the corpse poison was completely dispelled. Even the corpse energy of the young martial artist behind him was dispelled. "All right, the corpse poison is gone." The young martial artist was overjoyed. He hurriedly cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Thank you, Supreme Goddess." "No need to thank me." Lin Muyu's expression was calm. She said, You have killed the giant maggot and taken the spirit stones. Can you go back now? But we haven't found the ghost god personality. There's no need. Zhu Han hurriedly said, Young hero, we will leave immediately. But young hero, if we go any further, we will reach a place where the ghost energy is very rich. The legendary nine-eyed ghost king is hibernating below. Even without young hero's reminder, we cannot go any further. Young hero, why don't you come with us and leave this place? Go! Lin Muyu looked at him suspiciously. That's right, go. Zhu Han pulled out an iron rod from the bag on his back. The iron rod was densely covered with a row of divine characters, emitting dense rays of light. This unremarkable iron rod was actually the embryo of a mid-tier divine tome, and it was the law of space. Lin Muyu finally understood how this group of people entered this place, and how they left. Are the heavenly books very popular in the celestial pole continent? He could not help but ask. Zhu Han smiled slightly. Not very popular. We brought 2 divine book embryos. We used one when we came and the other when we leave. This divine book can help us directly pass through the dimensional wall and go to the celestial pole continent. With young hero's cultivation, you will definitely achieve great things in the celestial pole continent. You can even establish your own sect. Thank you for your kind intentions, but I still have something to do here. You can go first. Then, we will meet again if fate allows it. Okay. Zhu Han, Du Guxing, and the others stood together and slowly activated the divine book. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu flew away. He did not want to be taken to the celestial pole continent by the divine book. After all, he had no interest in the celestial pole continent. The nine-eyed ghost king was ready to meet him. Boom! The mountains shook. Tang Xiaoxi turned into a ball of flame and broke through the main mountain range. She followed Qin Yin's aura and rushed over. She knew that Qin Yin was being refined by an evil person and could die at any time. This was the scene that Tang Xiaoxi did not want to see the most. Therefore, she gathered all her cultivation and rushed into the mountain range. The hard rocks kept hitting her body. Tang Xiaoxi whimpered and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, she was getting closer and closer to Qin Yin. She could not give up. Bang! The rocks were all shattered. Tang Xiaoxi crashed into the cave. From afar, she saw a man with a hunched back sitting beside a furnace. That was the ghost refining furnace. Qin Yin's spiritual body was inside. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The ghost refining furnace shook violently. Ghostly Hand was also on the verge of going crazy. His facial muscles contorted and he laughed maniacally. I'm going to succeed. I'm going to succeed. The overgod essence is mine. My precious, my precious. Big brother, there's a woman coming. Stop her. Yes. 80 roared, crouched on the ground and transformed into a giant lizard, charging towards Tang Xiaoxi. Get lost. Tang Xiaoxi's speed was so fast that she turned the giant lizard into a pile of ashes with a backhand slap. At this time, the ghost refining furnace suddenly exploded and turned into rays of golden light. Xiao Yin. Tang Xiaoxi's heart trembled. Qin Yin was being refined. Sob sob. Xiao. Tang Xiaoxi burst into heart-wrenching wails. Her beautiful face became twisted and hideous, and she completely transformed into her nine-tailed form. Then she punched Ghost Hand's abdomen. Bang! Ghostly Hand couldn't withstand her attack and was directly smashed into the rock stratum. He let out a miserable groan and didn't even have time to explain. The spiritual light in the air slowly gathered and turned into Qin Yin's beautiful figure. She stood behind Tang Xiaoxi, her beautiful eyes covered with a layer of mist as she looked at Tang Xiaoxi's crazy scene. Pooh! The sharp claws pierced into Ghostly Hand's stomach and tore open a bloody hole. Tang Xiaoxi ignored the blood splattering on her body and cried bitterly, "Bastard, give me back my Xiao Yin. Give me back Xiao Yin." Ghostly Hand was about to die. Tang Xiaoxi clenched her hand into a fist and smashed Ghostly Hand's left hand with her fiery divine energy. Her fist landed on the thick rock stratum and it was extremely painful. Her cries turned into pleading, "Give me back! I beg you, give me back Xiao Yin. Ghostly hand was completely dead. However, Tang Xiaoxi's attacks did not stop there. Punches after punches smashed Ghost Hand's body into smithereens. Her fists were covered in blood from the hard rock. Poor Tang Xiaoxi, who had lost all hope, not only had tears gushed out of her eyes, but there was also blood. 2 streaks of bloody tears flowed down her cheeks, making her look exceptionally poignant. Give me back Xiao Yin. Tang Xiaoxi punched again and again mechanically, her delicate body bent into a ball, indescribably weak. At this moment, a familiar voice came from behind her. Xiao Shi, whoosh! The illusory heavenly lake was suddenly in chaos. The water in the lake started to ripple as if it was about to boil, making it impossible for people to see clearly. What's going on? The 7 luminaries' demon emperor frowned. I can't see clearly what's going on? At the side, Ziyao said indifferently, it's the chaos of the alternate dimension. It seems like someone is disturbing our heavenly court. Who is it? The 7 luminaries' demon emperor clenched his fists and said, how dare they disturb the order of the dimension at this time? What about you and Xiao Yin? I'm so angry, quickly find out who it is. There's no need to find out. Sun Feng's body slowly flickered and appeared at the side. He said respectfully, Demon Emperor, it's the gods of the Western Heavenly Realm who launched an attack and occupied 2 of our planes at the western border. Western Heavenly Realm? The 7 luminaries' Demon Emperor raised his eyebrows and said, are those winged birdmen courting death? Pass down the order, start a full-scale war with the Western Heavenly Realm. Chapter 698. Tang Xiaoxi stood there in a daze. She almost did not have the strength to turn around. That was Qin Yin's voice. She knew that it was the voice that she had been feeling guilty for 5 years, the voice that she had missed for 5 years. With her back facing Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi's tears fell like rain. She murmured, I'm sorry, Xiao Yin. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Qin Yin's eyes softened. She whispered, don't say sorry. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done all this selfishly. I shouldn't have hurt your grandfather. No. No. Tang Xiaoxi trembled. She still didn't have the courage to turn around and face Qin Yin. She sobbed, grandfather and brother have forgotten who they are. They plotted to rebel. They deserve it. We forgot who we are. We are the king and the minister. We are the king and the minister. No, we are no longer the king and the minister. From now on we are sisters. We will never be the king and the minister. Qin Yin's voice was very gentle. Xiao Shi, turn around. Let me look at you, okay? Tang Xiaoxi sobbed. She didn't have the courage to face Qin Yin. At this time, the rocks in the sky suddenly cracked. Waves of divine power fell down and turned the rocks into dust. Finally, the group of prefects in the sky couldn't hold back anymore. Boom! A palm print went straight for Tang Xiaoxi. Tang Xiaoxi's divine power was already exhausted. She was sent flying and knelt on the ground. In the sky, countless prefects came on clouds. Tens of thousands of ghost dragon leaders circled in the sky. The prefects looked down coldly at the people below. Prefect Crimson Ghost said, little girl, your good days are over. Prepare to die. How dare you run amok in the well of reincarnation's territory? I think you must be tired of living. They must have sensed that Tang Xiaoxi's divine power was severely damaged. That was why they attacked. The pitiful Tang Xiaoxi was kneeling on the ground. This time she saw Qin Yin. Qin Yin's spiritual body was the same as when she was alive, but there was a sense of calm and steadiness between her brows. Qin Yin took Tang Xiaoxi's hand and helped her up from the ground. Then she turned around, opened her right palm, and pulled something in the air. Suddenly, with a swoosh, a biting cold sword appeared in her hand. She said softly, Xiaoxi, in the past, it was you and Ayu who protected me. This time, let me protect you, okay? Tang Xiaoxi's eyes became hot, and she nodded lightly, yes, you have to be careful. Don't worry. Pa! Qin Yin disappeared and reappeared in the distant sky. She stood opposite a group of abyssal prefects. Her elegant face was covered with frost. She had already placed the blame for Tang Xiaoxi's tragic death on the heads of these abyssal prefects. Qinin. Abyssal Prefect Crimson Ghost raised his eyebrows. As the soul of the ghost realm, don't you know the difference between high and low? Since you were able to break free from the ghost refining furnace, it means that you are very lucky. I think you should just surrender. Qin Yin said indifferently. Stubborn fool, who will take the lead? Abyssal Prefect roared. Below, an abyssal prefect jumped out with his crescent shovel. Let me, Li Xianba, take on this immortal demon soul. This was a hierarch prefect. No wonder he had the confidence to challenge Qin Yin. Eat my shovel. With a wave of the crescent shovel, a blazing sun descended from the sky. This was an attack of the law of light. Using this move in front of a Lord of Light was no different from displaying one's slight skill in front of an expert. Qin Yin met the attack head-on. The heaven-suppressing sword collided with the shovel. Bang! Not only were there sparks, but there was also the mighty power of the law of light. Strands of dazzling sun-like fiery rain shot out in all directions. Countless ghost dragon leaders howled miserably. Anyone who came into contact with the fiery rain was either dead or injured. Li Xianba saw the radiance blooming on Qin Yin's blade before the attack even ended. His heart immediately turned cold. Dazzle all beings. A resplendent light shot out with Qin Yin as the center. The powerful radiance made the group of ghosts and deities feel extreme pain. This kind of holy radiance was 10 times more painful than the soul-shocking bell. Even an expert like Abyssal Prefect Crimson Ghost couldn't help but cover his eyes with his palms. He wailed miserably as the back of his palms was burnt black by the radiance. Tang Xiaoxi looked up at the eruption of power from Qin Yin in the sky and couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Qin Yin's strength had probably long surpassed her. There was no other reason why she could kill Qin Yin in Hundred Ridge City. Qin Yin was just unwilling to hurt her. Bang! In the shockwave produced by the light source, Li Xianba was blasted far away like a kite with a broken string. He shouted repeatedly in the air, I admit defeat. I admit defeat. Don't kill me. Swoosh. Qin Yin suddenly swung her long sword. Suddenly, a dazzling arc of energy appeared in the air. The next moment, Qin Yin left her original spot at lightning speed and grabbed Tang Xiaoxi's hand. Silly girl, run for your life. Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but laugh. She flew side by side with Qin Yin in the tunnel of the cave. While the countless ghosts and deities above were still suffering from the radiance, the two of them flew several miles away. At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi only felt that her mind was flying. She wanted to relive this moment even in her dreams. She wanted to run madly in the forest with her good sister, not caring about the modesty of a lady, not caring about their respective identities. However, the two of them didn't run far before a majestic power descended from the sky. It made Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi almost unable to move. The ghost emperors of the 5 directions are here. Qin Yin had seen this guy's god emperor level power. She hated him to the bone. Let's fight him. Tang Xiaoxi clenched her fists and looked like she was ready to fight. Don't, Qin Yin pouted. We can't fight him. Even if we join forces, we won't be a match for the ghost emperors of the 5 directions. Let's just give up. The ghost emperors of the 5 directions didn't want to kill me. There's no need for us to fight him. Oh. At this moment, the dark energy in the surroundings surged and gathered into a black cloud. The ghost emperors of the 5 directions stepped out of the cloud valiantly. They looked like rulers of the world. They stared at Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi like tigers. The ghost emperors of the 5 directions sneered. What a deep sisterhood. One of you went through the 6 paths of reincarnation, and the other chased you into the ghost realm. If I wasn't a ghost emperor, I might be moved to tears by the 2 of you. Qin Yin bowed apologetically. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I've caused you trouble. Trouble is more than that. The ghost emperor's face was livid as he said, Qin Yin, the entire ghost domain is on the verge of being turned upside down because of your arrival. First, it was you who caused havoc on the Bridge of Helplessness, and then it was Lin Muyu who blasted through the 18 levels of hell. Do you know how much energy and resources it takes to repair the 18 levels of hell? And you, Tang Xiaoxi, you burned so many of our ghost soldiers and generals to death in the Hell of Scissors. Who's to blame for this mess? Qin Yin said, "Please calm down, Ghost Emperor. Lin Muyu, where is he now?" You still have the nerve to ask? The Ghost Emperors of the 5 directions raised an eyebrow. That brat is killing everyone in the Hungry Ghost Cave right now. Or maybe he's become a delicious meal for the 9-eyed Ghost King. Where is the Hungry Ghost Cave? Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi asked anxiously. The two of you can't even protect yourselves, and you still want to save Lin Muyu? The Ghost Emperors of the 5 directions expression froze. Qin Yin, you're already very lucky to be able to escape from Dong Lin. Come, follow me to the Well of Reincarnation, your time is almost up. No! Qin Yin insisted. I'm going to find you, impudent. Do you have a choice? The Ghost Emperor of the 5 directions had a cold glint in his eyes. Your next reincarnation cycle is the Azura path. I've already paved the path for you. If you miss this opportunity, the heavenly wheel will rotate and your next reincarnation cycle will be 3,000 years later. Do you want to see Lin Muyu now and be separated from him for 3,000 years? Or do you want to reincarnate now and return to his side as soon as possible? Qin Yin stood there in a daze. But what should I do if I leave him alone in the ghost realm? The Ghost Emperors of the 5 directions said, "Don't worry, there are people in the heavenly realm protecting him. It won't be that easy for him to die even if he wants to. Hurry up and reincarnate, you only have 30 minutes left." Tang Xiaoxi immediately took Qin Yin's hand. "Xiao Yin, I'll accompany you to reincarnation. After you leave, I'll go find Mu. Don't let anything happen to him, don't worry." Tang Xiaoxi patted the back of Qin Yin's hand and smiled. "Mu and I will wait for your return in the human realm." All right. Although she was very reluctant, Qin Yin had no choice but to reincarnate. The gigantic well of reincarnation was as deep as the stars in the sky. Qin Yin stood above the well of reincarnation and looked in the direction of the cave of hungry ghosts. Her beautiful face was filled with longing and reluctance. Tang Xiaoxi looked at her in a daze. She knew that she was the one who caused Qin Yin and Lin Muyu to miss each other for 5 whole years. "Xiao Shi, take good care of him," Qin Yin said softly. Tang Xiaoxi pursed her red lips. "Xiao Yin, you must be careful. Come back as soon as possible. Mu and I will wait for you in the Shattered Cauldron realm. We won't go anywhere, all right?" "All right, it's a promise. Wait for me to return." "All right." Qin Yin didn't look back. She turned around and jumped into the well of reincarnation. Her soul instantly turned into beams of spirit light. No one knew which plane or world she was going to. Tang Xiaoxi's tears fell like rain. "Xiaoying, goodbye. You must come back as soon as possible." She didn't know how many years it would be before they could see each other again. Crack! The sharp blade sliced through the bodies of the 2 malicious spirits. Lin Muyu maintained the speed of her descent at lightning speed, and the power in front of her was getting stronger and stronger. The guardian that was hibernating in the depths of the cave of hungry ghosts would soon appear, the 9-eyed Ghost King, the legendary overlord of the cave of hungry ghosts, an existence that had caused countless heroes to fall in the cave of hungry ghosts. Chapter 699. Roar, roar. In the depths of the hungry ghost cave, the ferocious hungry ghosts seemed to know fear. They didn't dare to approach the bottom at all. They entrenched themselves in between the vines, their eyes filled with fear as they looked down. They didn't even notice the arrival of a stranger like Lin Muyu. They even forgot about the need to eat. Buzz buzz. A tyrannical force blew over. The bottom of the hungry ghost cave glowed with a dazzling rainbow light. Nothing else could be seen. It was a stretch of nothingness. The rainbow light soared into the sky, forming a shield of ghost aura. It blocked Lin Muyu from going any deeper. But the boots stepped on the shield, and the outermost layer of the purple shield immediately broke. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and began to release the pressure of the God state. The pressure of 20 layers of heavenly caves swept towards the surrounding domain like a flood. Immediately, crackling sounds could be heard. When this young supreme god got serious, the shield formed by the rainbow light shattered dozens of layers in the blink of an eye. The hungry ghosts on the surrounding ring walls screamed incessantly. Those who were too close to the shield directly exploded and turned into a cloud of blood mist. A laughter that was neither human nor ghost came from the depths of the cave. It was hair-raising. "Brat, do you want to get out from here? Stop dreaming. It has been tens of thousands of years since anyone has been able to get out from this place. Unless you leave your head behind." Lin Muyu held the sword with both hands and shouted. Power surged out. The blade did not move, but a sword aura wrapped in golden divine power had already descended from the sky and smashed into the rainbow light shield. "Are you a human or a ghost? Get out here." Amidst Lin Muyu's shout, a huge figure slowly rose from the rainbow barrier. It was a giant at least 50 meters tall, even larger than the flame demon. He opened his mouth wide and absorbed the raging flame storm in the air. So the dimensional storm fire pillar in Hungry Ghost Cave was created by this fellow. The nine-eyed ghostly king's skin was like iron and rock, and his muscles were extremely bulging. He held a long saber in each of his hands. One of the two sabers glowed with a dazzling azure light, while the other glowed with a fiery red light. Both were peerless godly weapons. One was of the wind attribute, while the other was of the fire attribute. The nine-eyed ghostly king's huge head actually had 4 faces, and each face had 1 eye. Other than that, there was another eye on the top of his head, making a total of 9 eyes. "You want to challenge me?" The nine-eyed ghost king roared with laughter. "Punk, do you really think you're invincible with a supreme godhead? Haha, such a delicious meal has actually delivered itself to my doorstep. Looks like I've finally found my fortune after lying dormant in this hungry ghost purgatory for 30,000 years. Your fortune?" Lin Muyu smiled faintly. "Perhaps. Now tell me, what exactly are you?" "I'm the master of Hungry Ghost Cave, the most evil ancestor in this world. People call me the Nine-Eyed Ghostly King, but I had a better name 100,000 years ago." "What name?" "Ancient Beheader King." Lin Muyu fell silent. It was indeed a good name. However, he could also feel the powerful ghost god energy in the Nine-Eyed Ghostly King. In terms of cultivation, the Nine-Eyed Ghostly King was stronger than him. It would be best if he didn't use his full strength. Hence, Lin Muyu's voice softened, and he said timidly, "Nine-Eyed Ghostly King, I've already killed your guardian, that giant flaming beast. If you let me leave Hungry Ghost Cave, I'll be grateful for your kindness." "You're saying you killed the flame demon?" The Nine-Eyed Ghostly King's eyes narrowed, and he sneered, "What's so good about killing a dog? Come, if you have the guts, have a taste of the power of my Azure Dragon and Crimson Phoenix." It seemed like the Nine-Eyed Ghostly King's 2 sabers had names. From the power they emitted, they were substandard divine weapons, on the same level as the Star's sword. The Nine-Eyed Ghostly King was indeed rich. Swoosh, 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 streaks of wind blades surged around the Star's sword. Lin Muyu's expression was solemn. This battle was unavoidable. The Nine-Eyed Ghostly King was clearly someone who could be bullied, but not cowed. Moreover, he had been in the Hungry Ghost Cave for tens of thousands of years, and was probably extremely lonely. It was difficult for him to meet a worthy opponent. Now that he saw a supreme god like Lin Muyu, he naturally wouldn't let him go so easily. In the ghost domain, the Nine-Eyed Ghostly King was only second to the 3 great ghostly emperors. This was enough to show how powerful this big guy was. He had to be careful. When Lin Muyu raised her god power and got into a battle stance, the Nine-Eyed Ghostly King was stunned. This kid in front of him was definitely not as simple as he looked. He had a supreme god lattice, and his cultivation was unfathomable. Therefore, the Nine-Eyed Ghostly King roared, and the dimensional storm around him became even colder, creating a force field that belonged to him. He could move freely in the dimensional storm, but Lin Muyu couldn't. Die! With a shake of his arm, he attacked at lightning speed that didn't match his huge body. The Azure Dragon Saber slashed towards Lin Muyu with a strong dimensional wind. The momentum was astonishing. Lin Muyu didn't dare to be careless. Her two martial souls broke out of her body and fused into the seven luminaries' celestial sword martial soul. She held the sword horizontally in front of her chest, and the dragon blood battle shield and the wall of the bottle gourd overlapped in front of her. She was going to defend first, and see how strong the nine-eyed ghostly king was. Pang! The azure dragon instantly shattered the dragon blood battle shield, and then landed on the wall of the bottle gourd. The wall of the bottle gourd couldn't withstand the impact, and the azure dragon directly landed on the star's sword. The two divine weapons collided, and a piercing sound rang out. Waves of ghostly gods swept over, a total of 41 layers. This nine-eyed ghostly king actually had the cultivation of a god king, and it was the 41st heaven. There was a huge disparity in their cultivation levels. Lin Muyu immediately felt a sweet taste in her throat, and she almost vomited blood. She was sent retreating, and before she could stabilize herself, a strong wind came from her right. It was the attack of the Crimson Phoenix. The nine-eyed ghostly king was too fast, and the saber was like lightning. His two attacks were almost flawless, but the Crimson Phoenix's attack left Lin Muyu with no way out. It was impossible to use the dragon blood battle shield to block it. It was too late. In the nick of time, she suddenly opened her left hand, and stars appeared instantly, surrounding the high-speed Crimson Phoenix. It was the astral chain. When the astral chain clasped onto the blade, Lin Muyu borrowed the momentum and spun around, barely dodging the attack. She only felt a burning pain on her face. She was already wounded. The Crimson Phoenix's blade had left a wound about the length of a finger on her cheek, and pale golden blood flowed down. However, Lin Muyu was not one to take a beating without retaliating. As she turned around to avoid the attack, the star's sword had already left her hand, and it went straight for the nine-eyed ghostly king's neck. Pooh! The blade directly pierced through the nine-eyed ghostly king's earth energy, about 30 centimeters into his skin. Fresh blood gushed out, and Lin Muyu quickly retracted the blade with the help of the chi manipulation sword. Following the guidance of the god power gathered on her finger, the sword spun rapidly in the air, and shot straight for the nine-eyed ghostly king's eye. Heh! The nine-eyed ghostly king laughed heartily, and waved the saber in his hand, knocking the star's sword away with a clang. To him, Lin Muyu's speed was not too fast. More importantly, the nine-eyed ghostly king was born with 9 eyes, and was almost invulnerable. The ghostly god power swept around his arm, and the azure dragon swept across the sky. Get lost! The force of the 41-level Grotto Heaven god power swept over, and the impact sent Lin Muyu flying. She slammed heavily into the stone wall, and finally spat out a mouthful of blood. The difference in strength was too great. How could a 20-level Grotto Heaven compete with a 41-level Grotto Heaven? However, Lin Muyu could not admit defeat. He had no way out, and could only win. Otherwise, he would not be able to save Qin Yin. Demonic Sonar Saber. With a low roar, the demonic sonar saber at his waist flew out, and with the help of the chi manipulation sword, it spun out and turned into 4 small demonic sonar sabers in the blink of an eye. Together with the star's sword in the air, there were a total of 5 weapons in the air. With Lin Muyu's current cultivation, he could control the weapons within 200 meters, and the nine-eyed ghostly king's attacks were considered close combat. The Crimson Phoenix and Azure Dragon's attacks could only reach 50 meters at most. Go! As he gathered his god power to form the Dragon Blood Battle Shield and the Wall of the Gourd, he attacked with the Sword Manipulation Sword. At this moment, Lin Muyu was multitasking, and his E-High was surprisingly calm. The Supreme Being Lattice was glowing, and not only was it providing its master with god power, but it also calmed its master's mind. What ordinary people could not do was easily done by Lin Muyu. Despicable brat. The nine-eyed ghostly king moved his lower body in the rainbow light, wanting to chase after Lin Muyu. However, Lin Muyu only dodged in the air and did not care about being entangled by him. Instead, the 5 weapons in the air were giving him a headache, and under the constant harassment, the nine-eyed ghostly king was almost unable to deal with them. Clatter! Just as the nine-eyed ghostly king was trying his best to move his body in pursuit, the sound of chains came from his lower body. As expected, this ghostly king was imprisoned in the depths of the hungry ghost cave. Otherwise, with his perverse habits, he would have already killed his way out. However, it was not easy for Lin Muyu to kill the nine-eyed ghostly king. This ghostly king had no blind spots, and no matter where the 5 weapons attacked from, the final result would be the Azure Dragon or the Crimson Phoenix, wasting a lot of energy controlling the weapons in the air. As a result, the sounds of weapons clashing could be heard from the depths of the hungry ghost cave. The 2 forces of God power continued to clash, but there was no clear winner. The nine-eyed ghostly king was so angry that he could not use his God power, and Lin Muyu was also complaining incessantly. The sword kinesis flight consumed too much God power, and if this went on, she would die of exhaustion before the nine-eyed ghostly king died. At this moment, a dragon's roar suddenly came from the side of the sky. The Acatosaurus was here. Papa! Its sharp claws tore open the space wall, and the Acatosaurus rushed out, shaking its head and tail. Seeing its master vomiting blood, it was immediately enraged. It opened its huge mouth and shot a dragon's breath at the nine-eyed ghostly king. "Beast, don't you dare spit at me!" The nine-eyed ghostly king roared angrily, and with a hua, the dragon's breath surged. It was indeed powerful, to be able to disperse the Acatosaurus's attack with just one breath. Chapter 700. Roar, roar, roar. The Acatosaurus was indignant. It rushed down, and Lin Muyu could not even stop it in time. Was this rash and stupid dragon beyond saving? In a fit of rage, Lin Muyu spread her fingers and raised her supreme god force to the limit. Instantly, the little magic sonar blade and stellar sword whistled towards the nine-eyed ghostly king, trying her best to save Acatosaurus. "Evil creature!" The nine-eyed ghostly king bellowed in rage. The Azure Dragon slashed horizontally towards Acatosaurus's body. But at this moment, Acatosaurus suddenly curled up its body and smashed into the nine-eyed ghostly king's chest like a wheel full of iron spikes. The spikes spun and pierced a bloody hole. Pang! The nine-eyed ghostly king slashed through thin air and quickly used the hilt to smash Acatosaurus's body. Instantly, the little dragon flew out with a pained howl and crashed into the rock wall. Covered in blood, it whimpered at Lin Muyu and tore open a spatial rift to indicate that it wanted to return to the alternate dimension. "Don't go!" Lin Muyu flew over and grabbed Acatosaurus's tail, dragging it back. She then took out a bell and placed it in Acatosaurus's mouth for it to bite. "Just shake your head to support me. You don't have to fight personally." This was doable. The Acatosaurus agreed readily and began to shake its head. Ring, ring, ring. The spirit awakening bell rang. The nine-eyed ghostly king could not help but frown. Although as a ghostly king he had a strong resistance to the spirit awakening bells ringing, but this was not the way to go. "Brat, you're dead meat." The nine-eyed ghostly king roared angrily. He moved his body and continued to chase Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu was not in a hurry. She could see clearly that the lower body of the nine-eyed ghostly king was indeed chained to a huge rock in the middle by 2 thick chains. These chains were definitely not ordinary, or else they would have been broken by the Azure Dragon and Crimson Phoenix. However, this was a great opportunity. Hence, Lin Muyu did not engage in battle. She placed her hands behind her back and flew around the boulder with the nine-eyed ghost king. At the same time, she attacked with her 5 weapons, leaving wounds on the nine-eyed ghost king's body. After repeating this process for close to 100 rounds, the nine-eyed ghostly king's legs were finally wrapped up by the chains. He was almost unable to move. Just as he was suddenly pulled back by the chains, the enraged nine-eyed ghostly king finally understood that he had been tricked. This brat had been going around in circles all along, plotting against him. Bastard! The nine-eyed ghost king was enraged. As a supreme god, how could you use such despicable tricks? Don't you feel ashamed? No, it would be shameful if I was killed. Lin Muyu was extremely fast. A blood-red thread fell from his hand. It was the spirit-binding rope. Whoosh! The spirit-binding rope was an immortal weapon and had a strong spiritual nature. It expanded rapidly in the air, giving the nine-eyed Ghost King no time to react before he was tied to the huge rock. There were more than 10 layers of ropes. Bastard! The nine-eyed Ghostly King did not expect that he would be tricked by an immortal weapon of the ghost domain. He struggled with all his might. His divine power surged, and the boulder at the bottom of the cave of hungry ghosts actually loosened under his struggle. Damn, how strong was he? Was he trying to defy the heavens? Lin Muyu frowned. Luckily, the spirit-binding rope was very effective against ghosts. If it had been an ordinary rope, even a divine weapon would have been broken by the nine-eyed Ghostly King. Time was precious. She had to kill him before the cave of hungry ghosts collapsed. With a wave of her hand, a brilliant sun appeared in her palm. The purple sun fell to the ground. Boom! The purple sun fell to the ground and slammed into the nine-eyed Ghostly King's head. Both his eyes were charred black, but it was not enough to kill him. The nine-eyed Ghostly King was only injured but not dead. He roared in anger, and the boulder behind him began to crack. The sky shook, and it was a terrifying sight. This! Lin Muyu was a little shocked. She raised her hand to grab the star's sword that was spinning in the air. Her body suddenly disappeared from the spot. The next moment, the nine-eyed Ghostly King felt a sharp pain in his chin. A dazzling sword ray pierced through his brain. Ah! The nine-eyed Ghostly King was still not dead. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and lowered her head to take a look. The spirit-binding chains were about to break. She swung her fist and the 7 luminaries' profound energy circulated, 6 luminaries' heavenly tribulation. Boom! Under the impact of the powerful stars, the nine-eyed Ghostly King's head began to crack. Finally, this ghostly immortal had reached the end of his life. Ding! A blood-red godhead appeared in the air. The ghostly godhead had appeared, and it was the ghostly godhead that belonged to the immortal king. In terms of power, it was equivalent to the 4th tier of the heavenly realm, heavenly Tao Godhead. Lin Muyu raised her hand to grab the ghostly godhead and flew down. She kept the crimson phoenix and azure dragon blades that were falling from the sky. After spending so much effort, she had to get something. After retrieving the spirit-binding rope, the nine-eyed Ghostly King's huge body instantly turned into dust and collapsed. As he collapsed, the giant boulder at the bottom of the cave of hungry ghosts also collapsed. In front of her was a void. Looking ahead, it was a barren land, and she had no idea where it was. Lin Muyu sheathed her sword and flew out through the smoke. She saw that her surroundings were very empty, and when she looked up, all she could see was a huge spatial rift. Inside it was a chaotic scene in the cave of hungry ghosts. Countless hungry ghosts surged out in a frenzy after losing the protection of the Ghost King, like dumplings falling from the sky. Is this okay? It should be okay. Lin Muyu comforted herself. In fact, she knew that she must have made a mistake. The hungry ghosts in the cave of hungry ghosts were running amok, and the people in the ghost realm would probably have to clean up her mess again. But this was not important. She looked around with her sword in hand and let Ecatosaurus return to the alternate space to recover. The most important thing now was to find the place of the quiet spring as soon as possible. At this moment, a dragon's roar came from afar. It was the mount of the ghost dragon leader. It really came at the right time. Lin Muyu leaped into the air and flew over at lightning speed. Brat, who are you? Why are you? Before the ghost dragon leader could finish speaking, Lin Muyu stood on the ghost dragon's head and looked down at him with a pair of golden eyes. Lin Muyu said firmly, "Where is the quiet spring? Tell me or I will kill you." The ghost dragon leader's face was ashen. He pointed to the east and said, "The quiet spring is very close, 5 miles to the east." "What do you want to do?" Just as he finished asking, he could no longer see Lin Muyu. He looked to the east and heard a whistling sound that broke through the wind. It was 2F** King Fast. The ghost dragon leader was silent for a while, then he caressed the ghost dragon's head and said, "Little Black, when can you be so fast? I will be happy in the underworld." The ghost dragon shook its head and shook its body, looking like it was beaming with joy. The leader's face darkened. I'm not saying that the speed when riding a female dragon is fast. Tiske tisk, screw your mother, you idiot. Tiske tiske. The quiet spring was a spring that led to the Nine Nether. Legend had it that stepping into the quiet spring would usher in the end of life, but no one knew whether this legend was true or false, because no one who entered the quiet spring could return. Although the quiet spring was a land of death, the surrounding forest was lush and full of vitality. The entrance of the quiet spring was like a mirror inverted on the grass in the forest. There was a pool of water that was about a few hundred meters wide, but the water was formless. Even if the wind blew past, there would be no ripples. It was as if it was not a spring, but an illusion. Outside the spring, a group of official monarchs wearing golden armor were guarding. There were a total of 17 of them. In addition, there were hundreds of ghost dragon leaders and countless ghost soldiers and ghost generals. Not good, someone is coming. One of the official monarchs suddenly raised his head and said, "What a strong aura. Be careful, it seems that someone is coming for our quiet spring." What? Someone dares to barge into the quiet spring, he is simply courting death. At this moment, dark clouds suddenly rolled in the sky, and thunder rumbled. In just a moment, the sky above the quiet spring changed from a clear sky to a torrential downpour. The dark clouds seemed to have appeared out of thin air, making it impossible for anyone to guess what it was. There was only one reason for this kind of weather: man-made. The ghost generals and ghost soldiers all retreated into the forest to avoid the rain, while the group of abyssal prefects stared at a young man who was slowly walking towards them from the sky. The torrential rain scattered around the young man, not drenching him. Lin Muyu. One of the official monarchs couldn't help but tremble. "Lin Muyu, what are you doing in the quiet spring?" Another official monarch roared angrily with his sword raised. Lin Muyu's gaze was indifferent. "Xiao Yin has been sent to the quiet spring by you, hasn't she?" "No, we haven't." "Nonsense. The entire ghost realm is saying that you sent Xiao Yin to the quiet spring, and you still refuse to admit it." The official monarch's face paled. "Don't you dare mess around. Men, prepare the 9 Serenities formation for me and restrain this kid. We can't let him trespass into the quiet spring." "Yes." The 17 monarchs spread out and surrounded Lin Muyu in a circle. Each of them raised their weapons high and chanted an incantation. Suddenly, an invisible force spread out from under their feet, and each of the monarchs released a beam of light that intertwined in the air, crushing down in the blink of an eye. They wanted to seal Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu looked at the quiet entrance of the quiet spring, and she couldn't help but feel sad when she thought about how Qin Yin was buried under the quiet spring. Qin Yin had suffered too much, and the heavenly Tao was so cruel. Why should she follow the heavenly Tao? In this ghost realm, people eat people everywhere. What kind of third-order law is this? If this is the heavenly Tao, then I might as well break it. An inexplicable anger surged from the bottom of her heart, and Lin Muyu let out a furious roar. Supreme divine energy surged out of her body like a tidal wave, and with a loud hum, a divine will soared into the sky, shattering the 9 Serenities formation that the monarchs had just formed. Miserable cries rang out one after another. Not a single abyssal monarch was left unscathed. Lin Muyu's body slowly rose into the air, and she looked at the group of abyssal monarchs with a pair of merciless eyes. "I'll kill anyone who stands in my way." Whoosh! When Lin Muyu's body sank into the quiet spring, a blood-red ripple finally appeared on the surface of the quiet spring. You're tuning into the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.